Chapter 267. By the Sea. List rode Black Dragon from the pier named Flower Harbor along the seaside to the southernmost beach, but he didn't hear the singing of any sirens. He had already rewarded the siren, but he couldn't find the siren, which made him a little annoyed. He was going to wait for the flowers to return from Black Horse Island. He was going to patrol around Black Horse Island and try to find the singing demon as soon as possible. But before he could see the flowers, the good news to celebrate had arrived. Stupid Woman had begun to give birth. He immediately rushed to the dog prison and brought Trembling Woods along with him. When he arrived at the dog prison, Stupid Woman had already given birth to a puppy. It was lying softly on the quilt, covered with black fur. Stupid Woman rarely broke out of World of Warcraft and bared her teeth at List and others. Even when Dosen wanted to get close to her, he was scared away by her baring her teeth and roaring. "My lord, animals like cats and dogs are very fierce when they give birth. They won't let people get close to them. You have to be careful that they bite." Old Defoe explained. List understood this. This was the mother's instinct to protect her cubs. So he just stood outside Stupid Woman's warning range and watched her give birth. The black puppies that didn't open their eyes were his great wealth in the future. Without human help, Stupid Woman knew how to deal with it. Every time she gave birth to a puppy, she ate the placenta and licked the puppy's fur clean. Intermittently, Stupid Woman gave birth to 8 black puppies before she finished giving birth. Seeing that the 8 puppies began to compete for Stupid Woman's milk, List felt that he had to find a way to take the 8 puppies away and feed them with the milk of the dragon cow. Obviously, Stupid Woman's milk was not nutritious enough. It was impossible to cultivate intermediate World of Warcraft with this kind of milk. Dosen, stay outside and don't move. He stopped Trembling Woods from rushing in, then took out the dried meat and fresh milk that he had prepared. First, he approached the cage tentatively. Stupid Woman still had a bad temper after giving birth. When she saw List approaching, she grinned and growled. However, after List casually threw a piece of delicious jerky over to him, List's eyes widened. It immediately picked up the jerky and wolfed it down. Seizing this opportunity, List took a few steps forward. When Stupid Woman growled again, he threw the jerky again. After several repetitions, he had successfully entered the iron cage and stood beside Stupid Woman. If one were to ask if he was nervous, he would definitely be. Although Stupid Woman has forgotten the Rockthorn's magic, it is still a World of Warcraft. If it explodes and hurts people, List might get hurt. He thought he had the ability to protect himself, but if he was bitten, it would be no laughing matter. He had never heard of rabies, but what if it existed? Without rabies vaccine, he didn't know if fighting energy could kill the rabies virus. Therefore, caution was necessary. With the jerky to smooth Stupid Woman's teeth, List took out the milk, put it in a jar, and handed it to Stupid Woman. Stupid Woman smelled the milk, a little puzzled, but still stuck out her tongue to taste the milk. Then she stuck out her tongue and licked it. Even when List reached out to touch a puppy, she didn't care. So, List put the squealing puppy next to another jar of milk and pressed its little head to let it drink the milk. But the puppy just didn't lick. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He had already asked someone to roll the leaves of the fragrant coconut tree into a tube that could be passed through. The tube was gently placed in the puppy's mouth and let it suck the tube. Out of instinct, the puppy took a sip and then began to crazily suck the milk. Not bad, one down. List was full of a sense of accomplishment. He could predict that when the puppy liked the milk of the dragon cow, it would never try Stupid Woman's milk again. Maybe Stupid Woman would have milk, but the current Stupid Woman's milk was obviously not rich enough. As long as the puppy didn't drink it and didn't stimulate the secretion of the mammary glands, there probably wouldn't be any milk. That's it. He calmed Stupid Woman's mood with jerky and milk while teaching the puppy to suck the milk through the tube one by one. Probably because she had been tamed for too long, Stupid Woman's mood calmed down and she didn't care much about her puppy. Even if List picked up the puppy and pretended to take it out of the cage, it just looked up and didn't respond. My lord. Stupid Woman may not have learned how to be a mother dog. Her mother instinct doesn't seem to be very strong. Old Defoe has raised dogs for many years and has seen many dogs disdain their puppies. Although Stupid Woman was not disdainful, she was not so crazy about protecting them. Then take all the puppies directly. After the decision, List carefully removed the puppies one by one and handed them to the servant to carefully put into the dog cradle wrapped in quilts. Stupid Woman watched the whole process without saying anything. The 8 puppies were taken away smoothly. List breathed a sigh of relief and suddenly felt that it was too cruel to do so. He asked the servant to bring in a new quilt and replace the one that had been stained with blood. He also left a lot of food for her to eat and drink and put Dosen in for the two to be intimate. However, stupid woman who had given birth to puppies had no interest in Dosen for the time being. So List had to take Dosen away. Well, Dosen, don't be cheap anymore. Stupid woman is not in the mood to mate with you now. I'll bring you another day. The 8 puppies smoothly moved into the second floor of the castle and were taken care of by List himself. According to the experience of taking care of Dosen, it will take at least half a month for these puppies to open their eyes. The growth of World of Warcraft puppies is somewhat different from the growth of ordinary puppies. Wow, look at how cute they are, my lord. When they grow up, they will become strong intermediate World of Warcraft like Dosen. They will protect Flower Town and fight for glory for my lord. Gort flattered Zhang Xian. Stupid woman's smooth delivery made the territory cheer. Dosen's excellence was in front of them. In the future there will be 9 excellent Dosen, so the future of Flower Town cannot be avoided. The knight's glorious blessing. My lord is a true son of glory. I can't wait to see the day when the flying dust dogs grow up. If they are trained well, they will become the best force on the battlefield. Everyone who hears the name Flying Dust Dogs will be afraid of your lordship. The last sentence was said by Ram in excitement. It was a very common flattery. However, it touched a chord in List's heart. Ram is right. If one day the Flying Dust Dogs show their strength on the battlefield, I will be famous for them. But what will others call me? Dog Sword Saint? Or Violent Earth Lord? Or the man riding the dog? The name was so bad that it was a serious blow to his personality. So he seriously told his subordinates who were flattering him, from the day Dosen became an intermediate World of Warcraft, he was no longer an ordinary flying dust dog. Now that he has offspring, I believe they will become the same intermediate World of Warcraft, so it's time to give them new names. The subordinates immediately cheered, "Please give them new names, my lord." Chapter 268. The blizzard beast in front of him was still very small, and List didn't have the time to take care of it all day. He just converted the recreation room into an air-conditioned room and handed over the burden of taking care of the 8 blizzard beasts that had not opened their eyes to the housekeeper, Mrs. Morrison, and the most careful maid, Maggie. Although the blizzard beasts were very small, they ate a lot. List drank the rest of the milk today, barely enough for them to consume. When they grow up a little, it is estimated that they will have to be fed with the dry milk powder in stock. After a busy day, the little blizzard beasts ate and slept, and there were no signs of early death. It seems that they can all thrive. The next day he got up early again to practice the night class and pulled Paris, who was getting fatter and fatter, to practice a lot of actual combat. His do chi surged, and only when Paris almost couldn't help but transform, did he end the morning class. He had long been unhappy with the lazy Paris. Instead of a monthly salary of 1 gold coin, he invited her to eat egg rolls. He said seriously, "Compared with your first actual combat, your strength has declined significantly. Your reaction, speed, and skill have all obviously regressed." Paris gasped. This time she had consumed a lot of physical strength. "Although I don't want to admit it, Lord Baron, your strength has been improving all the time." "Why do you think so?" "Because the flame on your sword is getting fiercer and fiercer, and your total amount of do chi is constantly breaking through." Although Paris had become fat, her cognitive judgment had not declined. Her strength had indeed regressed a little. She had to admit that the increase in weight had reduced her flexibility, but List's progress was the main reason for the one-sided battle. Without transforming into the Black Dragon Gang, when the light and shadow pull could not play a role, she was not List's opponent at all. Putting away the red blood sword, he glanced at Paris's undulating chest. List faintly nodded. "In the cultivation of chi, if you don't advance, you will fall back. I am indeed improving, but this is not an excuse for you to allow your strength to fall back. In a few days, I'm afraid that I will no longer be able to restrain your light and shadow. Even if you use an ordinary sword, you will not be my opponent." Paris was a little unconvinced but finally nodded. "I understand. I will train harder and strive to improve my strength so that I will not be pulled away by you." Seeing the mercenary come to her senses, List patted her on the shoulder with relief. "People always rely on themselves. Don't forget, you should set an example for your sister." In his eyes, although Paris had experienced many hardships, she was still a young woman in her 20s. And Paris twisted her body as if she wanted to avoid List's action, but she resisted. "I'm going out. You don't have to follow me. These few days are your vacation." After List finished speaking, he turned around and left. He had to continue patrolling the beach and find his singing demon. Seeing List riding away with his retainer knight, Paris was momentarily absent-minded. She touched her shoulder unconsciously and muttered to herself, "It seems like Lord Baron likes skinny women. I should really eat less. Flower port. The flower has not yet returned, and List has not found the singing demon's voice. The singing demon is probably not in the waters of Flower Town. I should save money, buy another sailboat, and go to Black Horse Island to look for it. He raised his hand and thought, according to the current ship market price, an ordinary brig like the Flower costs more than 500 gold coins. A better brig would cost thousands of gold coins, a better three-masted sailboat would cost at least 2,000 or 3,000 gold coins, and a fast sailboat like the Palace would cost at least 5,000 or 6,000 gold coins. In terms of fixed assets, List can afford to buy a good sailboat. His fixed assets add up to tens of thousands of gold coins. Not to mention anything else, the value of a space gem alone is immeasurable. However, a lot of wealth cannot be seen in the light of day. Liquidity is extremely scarce. The money to buy serfs was exchanged with mithril. Something like mithril had great strategic value and couldn't be bought with money. Every time you used it, you would have one less. Exchanging mithril for gold coins wasn't worth it. Let's save gold coins slowly. I have flower soap and flower wine is coming out soon. It's not far from making money. Snowflakes were still falling. The beaches on the coast were all white. However, the sea did not freeze and the waves continued to rush up and down. Black Dragon stepped on the snow on the shore and walked slowly. List's eyes wandered over the sea, looking for a place where the singing demon might appear, but the sea was clean, not even a plank could be seen. There were some seagulls that passed over the sea in groups, preying on fish in the sea. Maybe I can buy some small paddle boats first and train the fishermen of the oyster settlement to go to sea to fish. The seafood business has been depressed. The sea fish business, shrimp and crab business, should be able to continue for a long time. There are very few lords who go to sea to fish now. It was not uncommon to catch freshwater fish. Serfs did not dare to go to sea, but ponds and rivers were certainly not unfamiliar. Some migratory fish in the sea were also often caught. For example, lampreys, which were very popular with nobles, and salmon, a specialty of the salmon family, were all migratory fish. People often thought that this fish was the food given by the sea and the blessing of the night's glory. There were ferocious sea monsters in the sea, but the fish took the initiative to come ashore. If this was not a blessing from the sea and the blessing of glory, what else could it be? As he walked, he arrived at the beach near the fragrant coconut tree worm's grass. It was here that he had salvaged a shipwreck with keel-fixing technology and found 5 large chests of shipwreck treasures. Now that he thought about it, this shipwreck should be the ship of the Magic Goat family. The broken magic books should have been purchased by the wizards of the Magic Goat family. Even the 36D specter in the keel-fixing was stuffed in by the wizards. Maybe it was the work of Kurdish Truth. She has been studying soul-stripping technology, and the 36D should be the human soul she stripped out. Kurdish Truth and her ghost ship had already dissipated. Apart from the magic books, the goat's head flag, the bow of the ship, and the sapphire ring which he could not figure out, there was not much left worth studying. However, List still intended to keep the 36D specter. Maybe one day he would want to study lich technology. There were too many unknown secrets in this world. If he could live for 500 years, he would definitely be willing to ride his dragon and try to understand this world. This world was far more magnificent and fantastic than Earth. In the evening, List finally waited for the flowers to come back. Marcus returned with the flowers. At present, about 600 serfs have been immigrated to Black Horse Island, all of which are building the port town. Because there is no source of food, the flowers need to transport them back and forth. I didn't expect my lord to have experienced such a dangerous voyage. There really is a ghost ship in the world, and it is the ghost ship of Marquis Cohen that has long been destroyed. Marcus saw the night squad missing 3 squires and was very sad, but only for a moment. After seeing the 8 blizzard beast cubs, he was so excited that he couldn't help himself. The glory of the knights, the future of Flower Town can be entrusted to them. Teacher Marcus, the consumption of a blizzard beast like Dosen to raise is probably no less than that of a night squad. The current Flower Town is still struggling financially. We need to vigorously develop it. Chapter 269. After List filled the flowers with cargo, he set sail for Black Horse Island. So far, the flowers has sailed between Coral Island and Black Horse Island more than 10 times, but has not encountered any storms, so the calm pearl has never been used. However, with the calm pearl on board, the crew is full of confidence and List also feels at ease. When I go back, I will ask Elkson if he can make the calm pearl. Forget it, let's go straight to Glanny. Glanny is experienced. Although his temper is a bit annoying, for the sake of the quality of the calm pearl, I should ask him to make it. List stood at the bow of the ship looking around. He was looking forward to meeting his singing demon on the voyage. Unfortunately, when the flowers sailed to the dock named Black Horse Port, there was still no sign of the singing demon. What the hell is going on? My singing demon won't be pocketed by the smoke mission, right? He could no longer calm down. Putting aside those inexplicable fantasies of love and lust, the value of the singing demon itself is absolutely huge. At least with the singing demon, the ship will never get lost in the sea again. After unloading, it was already late, and there was no time to patrol the waters around Black Horse Island. List went directly to the king of the Black Horses, Lightning. When Lightning saw him, it bowed its head intimately and rubbed his arm. It did not forget its master who had conquered it. Carrying List, it galloped through the snowflakes. Black Horse Island was also covered with ice and snow. Only the part of the grassland between the 4 hills near the valley seemed to have geothermal heat. There was no snow, revealing the still growing pasture. The black horses were eating grass here quietly. Perhaps it was because they had seen so many people that they were no longer afraid of humans and just pretended not to see them. The burial ground between the Needle Grass Hill and the Ice Grass Hill was also covered with snow, but the potholes of volcanic glass and keel fragments could still be seen, as well as the 5 tall dragon bones. These 5 bones have not completely decayed and must have important value. However, List could not remove them, nor could he preserve them. He could only let them be exposed to the wind and rain. When Black Horse Island can be exposed, I must invite a magician to help me study these 5 dragon bones. However, I must first recruit a magician follower. The secret of the dragon bones must be kept as secret as possible. Any secret about dragons must be treated with caution. Never underestimate the people here, their great desire for dragons. Even a transmigrator like him could not resist the charm of a dragon. Marcus has drawn up a rough topographic map of Black Horse Island. He is not a professional cartographer, so the map is very simple, and he only knows the general terrain. Ice grass mounds, needle grass mounds, sheep grass mounds, and alfalfa mounds formed the terrain of the damaged crater ring-shaped mountain range. The inside was a grassland and burial ground, while the outside was a land of rocks and weeds. The dock and port town are located in the south of Black Horse Island. There are also some islands and reefs around Black Horse Island. In the southwest corner of the water, there were 3 small islands that were a few hundred acres in size. List named them Mangrove Island, Rocky Island, and Sandy Beach Island. Because Mangrove Island is densely covered with mangroves, Rocky Island is a weathered basalt pillar. Sandy Beach Island is very flat, full of sand, with only a few fragrant coconut trees. Outside the 3 large islands, there are sporadic reefs, most of which are exposed when the tide is low and submerged when the tide is high. The singing demon I am looking for is probably between the shore of Black Horse Island and these islands and reefs. List looked at the simple map and thought to himself. So the next day the sky was just beginning to brighten. He led Captain Costo and others and began to sail around Black Horse Island. Sir, in fact, in addition to Black Horse Harbor in the northwest corner of Black Horse Island, there is another area of water suitable for a dock. The depth of the water may not be as deep as Black Horse Harbor, but the width of the water is very suitable for ships to dock. Captain Costo commanded the flowers while acting as a guide. List nodded and said, "We will develop a new dock later. At present, Black Horse Harbor is enough." They walked and stopped, visiting the islands and reefs along the way. After a whole day they finally circled Black Horse Island and checked all the coastlines and surrounding islands and reefs. There is no singing demon. At night, resting in the newly built house in Port Town, List tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He was upset and impatient. Did I go in the wrong direction? Why is there no singing demon? Where did my singing demon go? He didn't sleep well all night. But he was not discouraged and continued to lead the flowers to search the waters of Black Horse Island. This time they went further into the water, first of all, the 3 triangular islands. Because it was not easy to dock, they paddled ashore in wooden boats. The trees on Mangrove Island are dense. It is the kind of mangrove that can grow in seawater. Mangrove forest is a general term, just like shrubs that not only have thorns but also some other small shrubs. Mangrove forest has not only mangrove plants, but also many other kinds of plants. There are many kinds of trees in the mangrove forest, and there are many varieties of mangrove plants alone. However, List doesn't know any of them, and the knowledgeable Costo only knows a few of them. They are all called in dialects such as mangrove bark, autumn eggplant, sea lotus, chicken claw, and so on. The mangrove forest with well-developed roots, as if growing in seawater, completely obscured the island inside. Unable to dock, List cast magic eyes and paddled around with a wooden boat. No signs of magic were found. In this mangrove forest, there was no singing demon, no potions and no sprite worms. The rocky island was even more clear at a glance. There was nothing there. Finally there was the sandy beach island. The island was full of snow-white sand. When the wooden boat landed on the white sand, he only felt that as far as the eye could see, the blue sea, white sand and a few tall fragrant coconut trees, the scenery was so beautiful like a fairyland on earth. However, Liszt was not in the mood to appreciate it at all. He turned around and left with a cold face. "Sir, do you want to continue looking?" Captain Costo looked at Liszt's face and asked cautiously. For the whole day today this lord, who was usually noble but very gentle, had never had such a frightening scowl on his face. "Continue looking." Liszt suppressed his irritation and said gloomily, "If you can't find it, then don't go back. Continue looking at night." Perhaps they couldn't find it during the day because the singing demon liked to hide during the day and come out at night. Sure enough, nothing was found during the day. The flowers went to the dock to replenish some lights and other supplies and continued to search. Tonight the weather was clear. A bright moon rose from the sea, dispelling the night and sprinkling a fragmented brilliance that flickered with the waves. Liszt stood at the bow of the ship, not the slightest bit sleepy. Whenever he passed by the island reef, he cast magic eyes to observe the signs of magic around the island reef, trying to find the existence of the singing demon. The first half of the night passed in a flash, and the second half of the night was about to set. Seeing that nothing was found, the anxious Liszt was about to give up. At this moment, his ears twitched. An inaudible song came into his ears. When he listened carefully, he couldn't hear it again, as if it was just an auditory hallucination. But he didn't think so, because the slight singing was full of resentment, admiration and weeping. Just listening to it, he felt the sadness in his heart arouse. It was not an ordinary auditory hallucination. Chapter 270. After a while, the flowers quietly stopped, and the faintly discernible singing finally reached Liszt's ears again. He couldn't understand the language of the song. The pronunciation of the words was very strange, but it sounded noble and overlooking all living beings. But now it was easy to hear the sadness and pain in the song. It's a woman's voice. The singing demon is a woman if it has a gender. He listened silently, not in a hurry to look for it, fearing that he would accidentally scare the singing demon away. At the same time he carefully identified the direction of the singing. Liszt finally determined the direction of the singing. It was to the left, where there seemed to be several connected reefs. He used magic eyes to look, but because the distance was too far, he couldn't see anything. "Captain Costo, set sail in this direction to that reef." "Yes, sir." The flowers set sail again, and under the falling moonlight, the brilliance of the sea was cut through. He didn't know if the sound of the ship was too loud, covering up the singing, or if the singing demon discovered the movement of the flowers and stopped singing. Liszt didn't hear the sad and moving singing again. As for the sailors, they didn't hear anything at all. The sails swelled and the oars were neat and uniform. The flowers quickly approached the reef. Liszt kept using magic eyes to survey the reef back and forth, but he still didn't see any signs of magic. But he guessed that the singing demon was here, and only in this area were there islands and reefs. If the singing demon didn't need to rely on the islands and reefs to live, then he could only pinch his nose and accept it. To find a singing demon that could run around in the vast sea, the difficulty could be described as hellish. "Put down the wooden boat. I'm going to search the reef in this area myself." After circling around, Liszt decisively took the wooden boat and began to search the shallow water area inside the reef. The wooden boat sailed between the shoals of the reef. Liszt's magic eyes continued to observe. Finally, when he was patrolling next to a reef in the middle, he saw a faint sign of magic in the shallow water beside the reef. That speck of pure white light was so attractive in the night. "This way, quick, row this way." The sailors rowed with all their might, and the wooden boat was like a flying arrow, quickly rushing towards the reef. The closer he got, the clearer the white magic light in the magic eye's line of sight. He had already seen the specific location of the light, which was surrounded by rocks in the reef waters. The waves kept splashing on the surrounding rocks. The rowing of the canoe became difficult. However, with Liszt's guidance, they still managed to approach the source of the magical light bit by bit. Finally, the distance was close to 50 meters. Magic eyes could clearly see that it was a humanoid creature curled up into a ball. Strangely, there seemed to be a faint halo around the humanoid creature. The halo was shaped like a shell. It was very faint and couldn't be seen very clearly. Especially when the waves hit, the circle of light would appear and disappear. "Sir Lord, we can't row any more." The bottom of the wooden boat has been grounded by the rocks under the water. A sailor said. Go straight into the water. List determined that there were no sea monsters around and jumped out of the canoe. The water in this area was already very shallow. There were all kinds of gravel and pebbles under the water, and it was difficult to stand on them. In addition, the moonlight could not illuminate the bottom of the water, so it was very difficult to walk. Fortunately, List was prepared and directly took out a crystal lamp equivalent to a table lamp, which could barely illuminate a little of the water and the stones at the bottom of the water. He stepped on the stones, avoided the potholes and let the seawater submerge his legs and waist. He took a few sailors and groped over bit by bit. When the distance was less than 10 meters, he clearly saw what the magic light was. In the vision of the magic eye, there was a huge shell with a magical humanoid creature curled up into a ball, shivering. A clear female silhouette could be seen, but there were other faint magic silhouettes around it. On the humanoid creature's body, there were wings and fins. She had fins behind her ears, fin-shaped wings on her back, and the silhouette of her legs was exposed to the surrounding faint magic light, and her feet could not be seen. The whole shell was exuding a faint magic light, dispelling the magic eye. The large white shell was impressively within the light of the crystal lamp, stranded between two pieces of gravel. My singing demon. List was excited, his mental exhaustion was swept away, and his previous irritation was quickly dispelled. He silently said, Don't be afraid, I'm actually a good person. Finally, List walked to the edge of the shell. It was a very standard scallop-shaped shell, about 3 meters in diameter. The fan had a radial wave shape, a standard left-right symmetrical structure, and no other colors, just plain white. What a beautiful big shell. Captain Costo, who was behind List, exclaimed. The sailors also exclaimed, Oh my God, it's so big. It's beautiful. There's such a big shell here, it's bigger than the giant clam shell at the entrance of Sir Lord's castle. List raised his eyebrows. He didn't want this group of people to disturb him, so he ordered, Captain Costo, take some people back and get a large net. Later, drag the shell to the ship. The singing demon must be taken away. Since the singing demon lived in the shell, it must be taken away along with the shell. Yes, sir. Costo hurriedly scolded the sailors and returned to the flowers to get the net. Waiting for everyone to leave, List tapped the shell with his hand. Hi, hello, can you hear me? List's magic eye stared at the inside of the shell. The shivering singing demon hugged her legs with her hands and curled up even more. Apparently, she heard List's voice. List slowed down and made his voice sound more gentle. You should be able to hear me. I'm a passing human, a noble lord. The islands and reefs here are my territory. I hear your song, it's very sad and painful. I want to know what I can do to help you. He wasn't sure if the singing demon could speak Serpentine, but he had to try to communicate first. After all, it was a spirit of the sea, so he had to treat it gently. If it was a sea monster, he wouldn't say anything and would directly pry open the shell and kill it. But for the singing demon with a female outline, it seemed that her figure was quite graceful, so he couldn't be so rough. Don't be afraid, I really just want to help you. My name is List Tulip, and I am the Lord of Flower Town. I am a lord who believes in peace. I think that humans, elves, or singing demons are all members of nature and should live in harmony and not hurt each other. Then he talked endlessly about his philosophy of peace. This seemed to work. The shivering singing demon finally relaxed a little. She turned her head and seemed to want to respond to List. However, at this moment, Costo and the others came back and shouted, Sir Lord, the ship's net is here. After being frightened, the singing demon curled up tightly again. Chapter 271. It was another round of high and mighty whispering. The shivering singing demon finally relaxed again, but she still hesitated for a while until it was almost dawn before she opened her mouth to make a sound. If List hadn't been observing her movements with magic eyes, he might not have known that she had spoken. Hello. The voice was very subtle. But it was very sweet and lively, as if just listening to this voice, all troubles would disappear, leaving only a good mood. The same was true for List, and his body and mind were instantly happy. Hello, my name is List Tulip, and you? After a while, the singing demon spoke again. Tana histi Europamanai Seleno Lucati Focus Bunithaith. Cassandra Caroids. List almost couldn't hold it in. The name of the singing demon was more than 100 words long, and it was particularly hard to pronounce. He felt dizzy and couldn't remember a word. He only remembered the last name, which seemed to be Acaroids. Well, I'd better call you Achi. Are you a singing demon, Achi? List chose to forget the long string of names and asked gently. Achie. The singing demon had stopped trembling in the shell, but she still hugged herself tightly, and her voice was still as soft as a mosquito's. Human Achie is a siren, can sing. Siren? List raised his eyebrows. If he remembered correctly, sirens and singing demons refer to the same species in some night novels. However, those called sirens are generally evil creatures, and those called singing demons are generally good creatures. But the singing demon in front of him doesn't seem to be an evil creature. Probably the singing demon is just a false name for sirens. In any case, he has gained the initial trust of the siren Achie, so he continued to communicate. Achie, can I know why you are here? I heard your song is very sad. What happened to you? You can tell me about it? I'm a powerful warrior. I can help you. Achie was in the shell. Raising her head, she seemed to be sizing up List. After waiting for a while, she opened her mouth and said, Achie is being chased by Tulamita. It wants to eat. Achie. Achie is afraid, doesn't dare to return to the sea. Her voice was very pleasant to hear, but her serpentines were somewhat irregular and stumbling. What's a guru Machida? Tulamita, sea monster, six-headed sea snake, it eats sirens. Achie is afraid of it. A six-headed sea snake? It sounded terrifying, but List's strongest fighter was Paris, followed by Dosen. With Paris still in the flower town and Dosen in the port town, there was no one around him who could fight. Besides, it wasn't a wise choice to deal with sea monsters on the sea. So he thought for a moment, inspiration flashed in his heart, and he immediately said, Achie, you stay here. What will you do if Tulamita finds you? Ah. Achie curled up at once. Achie is afraid. Tulamita wants to eat Achie. Achie is hiding. Tulamita will find Achie. Yes, Tulamita will find you at any time. On the sea, sea monsters are very dangerous. Listening to him talk about Tulamita many times and mention that he would find her, the siren was even more afraid, shivering and almost crying. Achie is afraid. He felt that it was enough. List said aloud, Don't be afraid, I List Tulip, the Lord of Flower Town and Black Horse Island, will never allow any sea monster to hurt the siren here. In order to protect your safety, Achie, I will take you to my territory and find you a suitable refuge. Achie is afraid. The siren still did not fully trust List. List was not discouraged and continued, Achie, do you know the glory of the night? The glory of the night, Achie knows that humans are like the spirit of the sea. The siren is the child sheltered by the spirit of the sea. She said. List didn't know what the spirit of the sea was, but since the other party understood the glory of the night, it was easy to deceive. No, it was easy to communicate. I, List Tulip, swear to the glory of the night that I will protect the siren Achie from the sea monster Tulamita. Without any hesitation, the oath was made. List didn't intend to hurt the siren at all. This was a precious gift from the smoke mission. He cherished it too much. How could he let her get hurt? Achie, I'll take you back to take refuge first. One day I'll kill Guramita and let you return to the sea safely, okay? The human beings in this world all talk about the glory of the night, as if the glory of the night is an inviolable honor. However, there were quite a number of knights who talked about glory but did dirty deeds behind the scenes. However, for the siren Achie, this behavior is full of justice and sincerity. She unconsciously opened a gap in the shell. Lying inside, she twisted her body and peeked out from the gap. List was half squatting on a stone in the water. His clothes had been wet by the sea, his pale blonde hair was bathed in a glimmer of dawn, and there was a faint smile on his face that was enough to melt all ice. His sapphire eyes seemed to have countless stars spinning in them, which could suck in the hearts of all women. Achie looked at him for a long time, quietly closed the shell and said, Human, Achie thanks you. Call me List. List. So, Achie, can you get on the boat by yourself, or should I call my subordinates to help you get on the boat? Achie can swim. As Achie spoke, the huge white scallop floated up from the sea and slowly emerged from the water, like a boat. A faint magic power could be seen around the scallop, driving the water current. List held back his pride, stood up and said, Achie, I will lead the way. You follow me to the boat, I will take you to the flower town, it is very safe there. The siren did not answer. But the scallop slowly followed behind him. Costo and the others, who had retreated 100 meters away, watched as List brought the huge shell back. They all opened their mouths wide but did not dare to speak. After List approached, he just said lightly, You row slowly. He got on the wooden boat and looked back. The shell seemed to be a little hesitant, not daring to go forward. He comforted it again, Achie, come here. Only then did the shell slowly follow them and lean against the wooden boat. The sea demon was really timid. List did not tell the sailors what a chi was. He just urged them to row. After a while, he had brought the shell to the side of the flower. Touching the smooth surface of the shell, he said, "A chi, I will send you to the flower. It is safe on the ship, don't be afraid." There was no response from the shell, but it did not leave either, apparently acquiescing. The siren seemed unwilling to speak in front of other humans. List was relieved. He ordered the sailors to drop the net, let the shell swim into the net, and the sailors pulled the shell up. The siren in the shell, after leaving the water, immediately curled up into a ball and began to shiver again. She was still afraid to face this group of strangers. She did not intend to let them know what was in the shell. Chapter 272. List touched his chin. He was thinking about how to conceal the existence of the siren chi. Sirens are different from World of Warcraft and sea monsters. They are magical and incredible creatures. If they were known by others, there would definitely be people coming to fight for them. They are not as charming as dragons, but they are not much worse. Dragons are real creatures, while sirens are legendary creatures, endowed with a lot of evil or beautiful imaginations. Don't underestimate the curiosity of the nobles and the magicians who pursue the truth. Therefore, I must conceal a chi's identity well. I can't afford to make any mistakes. Fortunately, a chi is hiding in the shell and has not spoken, so no one knows of her existence. I can announce that I have picked up a shellfish sea monster, so no one should pay attention to a chi. Sea monsters are the same as World of Warcraft, except that World of Warcraft lives on land and sea monsters live in the water. For example, the pearl shells raised by the sapphire family in the Tranquil Lake are a kind of sea monster, so it is not surprising that List caught a shellfish sea monster. Thinking about this, List was relieved. Glancing at the situation in the shell, the siren chi had stopped trembling, but she was still habitually curled up and never relaxed her vigilance. A chi. List knocked on the shell, a large shell with a diameter of 3 meters, occupying most of his room on the flowers. List. Can you live without the sea? A chi, there is seawater in the shell. You can speak Serpentine, where did you learn it? Have you ever been to a place where humans live? List was curious and also chatted to open the mind of the siren chi. So far he doesn't know what the siren chi looks like. From the vision of the magic eye, he can see that she is similar to a human but with fins and wings. She was slightly smaller than an ordinary woman who was 1.6 meters tall, about the same height as a woman who was 1.5 meters tall. However, her figure appeared to be curvaceous. In line with the golden ratio, her waist was very thin, her breasts were full, her buttocks were perky, and her limbs were slender. He remembered that in the night novels, some authors described sirens as beautiful women with their upper bodies and ugly sea serpents with their lower bodies. Some authors recorded that sirens had blue skin, and some night novels described that sirens had green skin covered with scales. List was very curious, but he would not ask to take a look so directly. Anyway, he had the siren in his hands and he could look at it however he wanted from now on. A chi likes listening to passing ships, human voices on the sea. A chi knows a lot. The Sapphire Kingdom has a big sapphire dragon. When a chi talked about the sapphire dragon, her tone was full of joy. Obviously, even the sirens could not resist the charm of the dragon. Yes, the sapphire dragon is the symbol of the Grand Duchy of Sapphire. My father has seen the sapphire dragon with his own eyes. It is a beautiful dragon with a sapphire body, like a crystal-clear sapphire. He could feel the incredible power of the sapphire dragon just by looking at it from afar. A chi likes dragons. Dragons are the most beautiful. Hearing this, List began to talk about dragons. He knew a lot of dragons, elemental dragons, gem dragons, metal dragons, and sacred dragons. The siren chi was stunned and completely forgot to be afraid. She even secretly opened the gap in the shell more than once, looked out, looked at List, and then closed the shell. The topic of dragons was almost finished. List said again, "By the way, a chi, I heard a lot of sailors say that the siren singing will guide those ships that get lost, right?" A chi also guided them, singing human songs, hee. Not knowing what to think of, a chi even laughed. This was a very good sign. It proved that the siren chi was gradually opening her heart. The siren is really a kind creature, just like a chi singing is delightful. A chi, are you hungry now? Do you want to eat? A chi is a little hungry. What do you like to eat? A chi likes fruit trees by the sea, falling into the sea. A chi likes to pick them up and eat them. List had a lot of fruits. His gem space stored fruits. Everything here was still and he was not afraid that the food would go bad. So he would store a lot of supplies in case he didn't eat good things when he went out. Immediately he took out apples, raspberries, grapes, peanuts, oranges and other fruits from the gem space. "Achi, I have a lot of fruits here, you can eat them." At this time it was already dawn, the sun rose in the east and the cabin gradually brightened. List was looking forward to it. He saw Achi hesitating for a moment and then opened the shell. It was no longer just a gap but slowly opened all the way. The light shone in, and the appearance of the siren Achi was fully revealed in List's eyes. What kind of beauty was that? The first thing that came into view was the white and tender skin, smooth as a newborn baby's, as pure as the sea, and as flawless as a fragile gem. This was the skin of a siren with the same characteristics as human skin, but the skin was far more delicate and white than that of humans. Just by looking at her fair skin, List couldn't wait to take a bite and have a taste. Then his eyes were attracted by the delicate face again. Delicate facial features, very exotic, with long blue waist-length hair and a pair of blue eyes. Such beauty is absolutely unattainable by human beings. List can only give her 11 points on the basis of 10. The most peculiar thing is that her ears are not human-shaped ears, but from the root of the ear, they gradually change from the color of flesh to the color of water, and then grow light blue ears in the shape of spiky fins. This kind of ear is not a physical object but really made of water. List can clearly see her beautiful blue hair swinging over the fins of the ears. Similarly, there is a pair of spiky fin-shaped wings growing on her back, probably growing at the shoulder blade position. It is not big, it is better to call it a kind of fin than a wing. Looking away from the fins, List noticed her neck, white and slender. Then he looked at her chest. It was very round and straight. The most amazing thing is that she is not wearing clothes, but there is a water-like ribbon covering her chest. It is clearly water, but it doesn't look transparent, completely covering the elegance of her breasts. Further down is a flat lower abdomen, a slender waist and a delicate navel. Below the navel, there is another water-like ribbon covering it, blocking the most mysterious triangular area from List's imagination. She glanced at List shyly and slowly stood up. There is light blue seawater in the shell, and the ribbons covering the key parts extend from the seawater in the shell and surround her body. Her legs are slender and straight without a trace of blemish. The seawater flowed down slowly. List couldn't help but follow the water droplets from her thighs to her knees, and then to her calves. Below her calves, where her ankles should be, gradually changed from the color of flesh to the color of water, completely blending into the seawater just like her ears. It looks as if she has no feet and is growing in the water. Chapter 273. So beautiful. In the face of the true form of the siren Achi, List could not help but sigh. Among the magical creatures he has seen, the invisible dragon composed of magic and the great tulip sprite of Tulip Castle have left a deep impression on his mind. When it comes to beauty, the invisible dragon is probably not. It has a different kind of beauty, or rather, ferocious. Only the great sprite Xiangxiang can be compared with the siren in terms of beauty. But the great sprite does not have a human figure, it is just humanoid and its beauty is pure beauty. Sirens and humans look almost the same, and Achi's beauty is even more shocking. This kind of beauty comes from the heart, without any lustful color. At least List can guarantee that at this moment, he really does not have any lustful color. There is no respect, not even a thought in this regard. He even feels that the beauty of the siren is unreal, or should not be contaminated with the beauty of the mortal world. Any blasphemous thought is an unforgivable sin. Between appreciation. The siren Achi glanced at List again, and this time List understood. He immediately calmed down, showed a gentle smile, and pushed the fruit plate on the table to the corner of the table near the shell. "What fruit do you like? Eat it. It has been washed with water, it is very clean." Saying that, he also picked up an apple and took a bite. Eating alone is not as comfortable as eating with two people. List's actions are very considerate. When Achi saw List eat the apple, she boldly stretched out her slender arm and picked up a raspberry with her slender fingers. After taking another look at List, she put the raspberry into her small mouth and ate it. "How does it taste?" "Oh, delicious. Eat more if you like it. I have a lot of fruit here. My territory, Flower Town, has a lot of fruit trees. You can eat fruit every day. I'm afraid you will get tired of it." "No." Achi likes fruit, the most. Eating fruit and chatting, the atmosphere gradually relaxed. The siren does not seem to be very old and has a very simple innocence. After a short chat with List, she was able to easily open her heart and forget her previous nervousness and fear with a smile. However, as they chatted, List discovered a very awkward problem. The key parts of Achi's body were covered by the hose, but she was still very exposed, not much different from being naked. He had thought that he would not have any lustful thoughts, but when he lowered his head, he found that he had actually silently set up a tent. In other words, he still felt respect. Achi, do you need to wear clothes? Human beings wear clothes. Achi doesn't wear clothes. Achi is a child sheltered by the spirit of the sea, the siren. Achi replied seriously. Perhaps to the sirens, clothes were just human things and they didn't need them. They were elves of the sea, similar to the elves of lesser and greater elves. Elves did not need to wear clothes. Of course, elves did not have breasts, bodies, or genitals, so it did not matter if they wore clothes or not. List froze for a moment. He didn't say anything more. If she didn't want to wear it, then so be it. Anyway, he was going to hide the siren Achi from outsiders, so there was no need to cover her beauty with clothes. It was not that he liked to see her naked, but he didn't want to restrict Achi's nature. After Achi finished eating a raspberry, he asked again, Achi, how old are you? Achi tilted her head and seemed to be thinking, I was born, not long ago. I have seen 41 snowy winters. I should be 41 years old. Well, Achi is 41 years old. 41 years old? How was this not long ago? How long is your lifespan? List asked. If he did not understand this question, he would feel very uncomfortable. We humans only have a lifespan of less than 100 years, and I am only 17 years old this year. 17 years old, so young, hee. Achi first laughed at List's age and then thought seriously, I don't know. I'm not an adult yet. Sirens can grow feet when they grow up. In other words, you really have no feet now? Yes. It's amazing. I can't imagine how beautiful you will be when you have feet. Women are never boring with compliments, even sirens. Achi was very happy. Her appetite was a little small and she seemed to like to eat raspberries, but she stopped after eating a few. I'm full, List. Then she yawned comfortably. Are you sleepy? A little. Then you sleep for a while. The ship will stop at Black Horse Port to replenish some supplies, and then go directly back to Flower Town. You can stay in Flower Town for a long time. The town has a very beautiful beach and a calm bay. List had a lot of questions to ask. But he did not think that asking too many questions at once was a good way to communicate. Now that the siren Achi has been found, there is no need to rush. The cultivation of feelings needs to be done step by step. The relationship with Duniko is a passion of dry wood, not a bond of trust. List wants to keep the siren by his side forever. Well, Achi, sleep for a while. The siren said, sitting down and soaking her body in the sea water in the shell. This sea water is by no means ordinary sea water. In the vision of List's magic eyes, it exudes a faint magic light. It can be said that the whole sea water and the shell should be a part of the siren. Similar to cordyceps, they are part of the elves. The shell and the sea water are probably the siren's cordyceps, similar to the existence of a life source magic weapon. Sleep well in my territory, Grimikita can't hurt you. List said with a smile, watching the shell slowly fall and completely wrap the siren in it. The flower docked in the Black Horse Port in the dawn sun. List got off the ship and briefly explained some things to Marcus, then sailed directly back to Flower Town. He was not in any mood to stay any longer. He just wanted to return to the castle and settle down the siren Achi. The ship sailed on the sea. Dosen stood outside the cabin and List stood in the room. Looking at the big white shell, he thought silently, where should I put Achi? Looking at Achi's state, it seems that she can stay on land for a long time. At most, she needs to go to the sea regularly to replenish the sea water in the shell. List would certainly not want to leave the siren in the sea. Not to mention the sea monster Grimikita. If someone scared the siren away, he would be depressed and vomit blood. But leaving the siren in the castle always feels like a disguised house arrest, and it is impossible for him to stay in the castle at all times. It's a pity that I can't take Achi with me. Chapter 274. When he woke up, they had arrived at the Port of Flowers. The siren Achi also woke up from the shell because of the movement of the flowers. She stretched and quietly opened a crack. List, have we arrived? Yes, let me show you my castle first. Castle? The place where the Lord lives? I have heard that there are many princes and princesses living in castles and beautiful, love. When she heard that List was going to take her to the castle, Achi was a little uneasy but also a little excited. She did not know what kind of stories she had heard about castles before. It was probably what the commoners loved to fantasize about, the poignant, beautiful and touching love between a prince and a princess. There are no princes and princesses in my castle, only me, the Lord, the servants, many sprite worms and the naughty thorn sprite Ella. Sprite. So beautiful, I have seen it, A long time ago at the beach. Where is the beach? List's eyes lit up and he asked. I don't know, it should be far away. I was chased by Muru Mikita and came here. I forgot where it was. What a pity. If the Siren Chi could provide the exact location, List would definitely sail there and try to catch the sprites on the beach. In this world there are many wild sprites, but they are extremely rare. After all, to evolve from a sprite worm to a sprite, it requires too many pheromones. It is difficult to collect enough pheromones and overcome other difficulties to complete the evolution by relying on the sprite worm itself. The dock workers have begun to unload. Costo came to ask List how to carry the big shell. Let me think for a while, Captain Costo. Wait a moment. List sent Costo away and asked the siren again, Achi, can your shell become smaller? It is too big and there is no suitable carriage to carry it. Achi can't. Achi was born this big. It has been protecting Achi from being eaten by sea monsters. Achi has the ability to control the flow of water. She can make the shell swim in the sea, but on land the shell cannot move at all. As for Achi herself, she cannot leave the shell until she has grown feet. Because she was one with the special seawater inside the shell, just like a sprite worm that had yet to mature and shed its worm stalk. Then I will order the carriage to be dismantled and the shells to be removed. After you visited my castle, I'll think of a way to settle you down properly so that you won't be threatened by Gramida. In the open shell, the Siren Chi smiled sweetly. Well, thank you, List. List bowed gracefully. It is my honor to protect the beautiful Chi. He turned around and left. He immediately ordered his subordinates to dismantle an expensive carriage, leaving only the frame of the carriage. In this way, the large shell with a diameter of 3 meters could be placed on the shelf and secured with a rope. Under the curious gazes of Gort and the other officials who rushed over, List rode on Dosen and personally escorted the big shell along the gravel road to the castle. Continue with your work, don't stand here and watch. It's just a big shell picked up from the sea, just like the giant clam before. List scolded the overly curious Gort and others. He had the shell placed in the castle hall. Now there was a new problem. The shell with a diameter of 3 meters, although very light, the shell and the seawater inside as well as the Siren Chi, did not have much weight, maybe only as heavy as 2 or 3 people. But because of its size, it was difficult to move it into the castle's second floor. Alas, I ignored a lot of problems before my brain turned into paste. It is a bit difficult to take an Chi in the castle, my castle is too small. If it was Tulip Castle, it would be easy to prepare an exclusive room for the siren upstairs. However, the castle in Flower Town was just a small, nameless castle with only 2 floors in total. The aisles and corridors were very narrow, and the big shell could not pass through it all. List was even more reluctant to put it downstairs and live on the same floor as the servants. It was selfishness that made him lose his mind. He just wanted to monopolize Achi's beauty. Of course, Achi did need to be kept a secret. When the problem was put in front of him and he calmed down, he regained a little of his clarity. Letting Carter leave the hall with the servants first, he knocked on the shell. The shell opened and Achi carefully looked at the castle hall with curiosity. List, this is a castle, a beautiful castle. Achi has arrived at a human castle. In fact, the upstairs is even more beautiful. That is where I live and this floor is where the servants live. But the corridor is very narrow and I can't send you up. Oh. Achi showed a regretful expression. List couldn't bear it and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. How about this? I will build a 2-story cabin outside the castle. You can live on it and I will open the wall between the cabin and the castle so that you can visit the second floor. Yes, it's decided. As a man of action, List did not hesitate to call Isaiah and give his instructions. He pointed to the bug house facing the north of the castle. Isaiah, immediately arrange for workers to build a 2-story cabin in this position and connect it to the castle. My lord, are you going to raise a shell sea monster on top of the cabin? Isaiah asked curiously. It was difficult to ignore such a big shell. Yes, this is a very interesting shell. I think it has a pearl in it. Let's raise it first. Shouldn't a shell be raised in the water? If it is raised in the water, it will run away. I still need to do some research. Don't ask too much, just follow my orders. The advantage of being a noble lord was that he always kept his word. As long as List made a decision, even if it was a strange decision, his subordinates would faithfully carry it out. Isaiah bowed and saluted, as you wish. During the construction period, the shell placed in the hall never opened. Only when List sent fruit would Achi open the shell. The castle also did not hold any banquets on the grounds of construction. List still dealt with official business, cultivated his chi and went out on patrol every day as usual, but he has stopped writing the series of history books, Dragons Fighting in the Wild. During this time, it was necessary to appease the siren Chi, who was a little uneasy because of the new environment. The beauty of the siren was one thing. More importantly, with the siren they would not get lost sailing on the sea. And after asking, he also learned that the siren could predict storms, perceive sea monsters and cast some water magic. Therefore, the importance of the siren Chi is huge and has strategic value. 3 days. The illegal construction of the castle, the shell wooden building, was successfully completed, and the big shell was successfully hoisted up. The passage to the bug house was opened, and the siren Chi and the thorn sprite Ella became neighbors. Wow! Ella was grumpy with strangers, but to the siren she showed strong curiosity and a sense of gentle intimacy. She circled around the shell. After the shell was opened, she stared curiously at the siren Chi. Wow, wow! Hello, Ella. My name is Chi. I am a siren. Chi stretched out her hand, and Ella tilted her head and muttered a few meaningless sounds before falling on her palm. The siren held out the sprite. Chapter 275. The siren Chi moved into the castle. Accompanied by the thorn sprite Ella, she felt that the new environment was good. Although she preferred the environment of the sea had Murmur-Mida, a 6-headed sea snake. The castle was safe. When I find a way to deal with Murmur-Mida, you can return to the sea. List comforted her. Eating delicious fruit, accompanied by sprites and sprite worms, Chi was very happy. List, thank you, you are a good person. She was given a good person card. List did not care. Everything was in place and he was in a relaxed mood. Now, the noblest lord of Flower Town raised a shell monster, which has gradually spread. However, the news did not cause much movement. Gort and others had seen the shell. At that time, the shell was lying in the hall of the castle for 3 days. A huge pure white scallop. At first glance it was rare, but after a while it didn't feel much. After all, everyone in Flower Town has eaten shell seafood. Apart from its size, they didn't think that the shell monster List got was special. Not to mention that they had seen the giant clam shell that produced black pearls. As long as Chi did not open the shell, the average person could not see the beauty of the siren and would not associate the shell with the siren. Lord Baron, I think that shellwood building is really ugly and doesn't match the style of the castle at all. Paris, who no longer carried the egg roll bag, occasionally came to the castle and said to List, "When Flower Town gets on track, I will build a bigger castle. At that time we will discuss the aesthetics of the castle." Although he said so, he would not build a castle in Flower Town. At most he would sew and mend. The future castle would be built on Black Horse Island. Originally he wanted to choose the location of the castle on the Icegrass Hill. But now it seems that it is better to choose the seaside with a cliff, so that the castle can directly access the sea, which is more suitable for sirens. It is not a good idea to always let the sirens live in one house. But there are no real cliffs on Black Horse Island, only some rocky shores. Forget it, don't think about it for the time being. There is still a long way to go before I can build a new castle. At least wait for the port town of Black Horse Island to develop before I have the financial resources to support my castle. A castle with a name would definitely cost thousands of gold coins to build. It would also require a lot of labor and a lot of time to complete. The castle was far away. Now, there was a huge problem in front of List that needed to be solved, the sea monster Makita. It chased the siren Chi from the distant sea. Apparently, it was currently wandering around the Coral Island and Black Horse Island. There was no guarantee that it would not suddenly attack the flowers. List asked Chi in detail. Chi displayed another of her abilities. She controlled the seawater in the shell and mimicked the image of Tulamikita, forming a 6-headed sea snake made of seawater. It had a realistic 6-headed sea snake with a short and thick body and 6 slender heads. Its 6 heads can release 4 kinds of magic. Under Chi's demonstration with seawater, List has determined that they are Water Arrow Volley, Water Wave Shield, Water Whirlpool and Powerful Water Column. Among them, Water Arrow Volley and Water Wave Shield magic can also be released by the Purple Sand Crocodile on Coral Island. The number of magic is 4, and the strength of each magic is average. So, Tulamikita can roughly judge that it is an intermediate sea monster. After making the judgment, List looked serious. The intermediate world of Warcraft Purple Sand Crocodile can run rampant on Coral Island. The sea monster Tulamikita can naturally run rampant on the sea. Not to mention that List couldn't deal with it, even if his father Lee William came, he still wouldn't be able to deal with it. He could only sigh in his heart, I can't beat it. Even if it is led into the river, it will be difficult to deal with an intermediate World of Warcraft that can release 4 kinds of magic. I can only hope that it can't find the siren Chi and will leave the sea on its own. Captain Costo must be careful when sailing. At this time he was eager for the lost keel-fixing technique of the magic goat family. He opened the magic book, to His Royal Highness Annette, Curtis Truth, and carefully read all the contents. There was no record of the keel-fixing technique. I should have squeezed out the keel-fixing technique first and then killed Curtis. It was too late to regret. He could only let Costo be careful and reduce the number of times he went to sea as much as possible. After calming his mood he asked again, Chi, what magic do you know? Chi can control the shape of the sea, and control the flow of the sea. She only knew these 2 kinds of magic which were not magic. Just like elves who can control plants, this was probably an instinctive power. When a Chi grows up, she can gain magical abilities. What kind of magical abilities? I don't know, but every siren when they grow up, they have magical abilities. We were born in the sea. The spirit of the sea shelters us and gives us abilities. Have you seen other sirens? No, but a Chi can sense them in the sea. Sirens are born in the sea. There is no such thing as parents and there is no habit of living in groups. However, a Chi was a minor siren, and she could not get much information from the sea. She was just a person living an ignorant life at sea, avoiding sea monsters, listening to ships, and singing softly. If it weren't for the fate guidance of the smoke mission, List would probably never have been able to come into contact with such a beautiful creature. He could only fantasize about the singing of the singing demon like those sailors. But now she was living in the castle, more beautiful and magical than the legend. 8 little blizzard beasts, drinking milk vigorously, are growing well, and it will take some time for them to open their eyes. They eat so much, master, your share of milk is almost finished by them. Mrs. Morrison took good care of the blizzard beasts. The maid, Maggie, was diligently cleaning the room. If there is not enough fresh milk, use the dry milk powder in stock. The caravan can buy fresh milk from North Valley City. Master, can we use fresh milk to feed the little blizzard beasts? No, just use the milk of the cows produced in Flower Town. Mrs. Morrison, you must be strict. I need the milk of the 5 cows, Big Flower, Big Yellow, Big Black, Little Flower, and Little Black. Only their milk is qualified to feed the blizzard beasts, understand? When the invisible dragon invaded, there were 11 cows in Flower Town, and 2 old cows were eaten. Of the remaining cows, Zhuang was a male cow, and it was hard to say whether it was infected or not. Milk Flower, Milk Yellow, and Milk Black were not yet adults and could only try to conceive this year. Little Flower and Little Black were young cows and did not produce much milk, but the quality of the milk barely reached the level of dragon milk. The most prosperous were the 3 healthy cows, Big Flower, Big Yellow, and Big Black, which were the main sources of dragon milk. Understood, master. Mrs. Morrison nodded but said worriedly, it's just that Big Yellow, Big Black, and Big Flower have reached the late stage of pregnancy, and their milk production has begun to decline. According to the judgment of the farmers on the dairy farm, the due date of the 3 cows is about May. Because to ensure the healthy survival of the calves in their stomachs, they secrete less and less milk. When the calves give birth, they can enter the next flourishing milk production cycle. After thinking about it, List gritted his teeth and said, take out the dry milk powder and feed it first. If it is not enough, distribute my share of milk directly to the blizzard beasts and feed them with milk until they open their eyes. At most it will take half a month. These blizzard beasts will open their eyes. At that time, their foundation will be stable and there will be no need to feed them dragon milk. He decided to bear with it. These little blizzard beasts have an amazing appetite. Chapter 276. List calculated his daily consumption. His personal meals alone cost more than 30 silver coins a day. Among them, dragon milk and magic potions are consumed because they are self-produced in the territory and the value is difficult to measure, so they are not included. All kinds of white bread are the staple food. Grinding your own flour and making it yourself can save a lot of money. Only a material cost, about 3 silver coins a day. The consumption of all kinds of fruit wine and rice wine can be borne by the brewery. Beer and liquor cannot be reached for the time being. Beer lacks hops and flour brewing technology needs to be improved. Because he doesn't drink much, this part can almost be ignored. All kinds of barbecue and steaks have to be bought at about 5 silver coins a day. The consumption of all kinds of eggs, vegetables, and fruits has basically achieved self-production in the territory, and the castle buys them at a low price, about 2 silver coins a day. Finally, There is the big daily consumption World of Warcraft meat. He can't live without World of Warcraft meat, even if he doesn't eat much. It costs about 20 silver coins a day. If you include lunches, dinners, entertaining subordinates and servants' meals, the castle spends at least 40 silver coins a day on food expenses. After calculating, eating and drinking for a month costs 12 gold coins. This is basically equivalent to the total annual tax revenue of Flower Town before there was a lord. That is, List, relying on the help of the smoke quest, coupled with a little knowledge of crossing over, dared to be extravagant. But seeing the momentum of the little blizzard beast drinking milk, his heart trembled. When Dosen's bloodline evolved, he often ate World of Warcraft meat, and his meals were calculated according to gold coins every day. Even if he can eat ordinary meat now, the consumption of meat, eggs and milk a day is enough for everyone in the castle to eat and drink. Raising an intermediate World of Warcraft, 10 gold coins a month is a steady expenditure. But he will raise a total of 9 intermediate World of Warcraft in the future. With the momentum of the Blizzard Beast, when they grow up they will not eat less than Dosen. Can I really rely on the output of Flower Town to feed them? The more he thought about it, the more he doubted his life. Should I send out a few? No, I will raise them even if I have to. Intermediate World of Warcraft, even if someone offers a price of 1 dragon coin he will not sell it. Moreover, he doesn't need to sell it. It's enough to take out a part of the mithril, crystal and jade in the gem space. The Count will certainly be willing to help digest the mithril, crystal and jade. When my flour brewing technology is successfully improved, wealth will continue to gather. The current difficulties are temporary and we can see the light. Leaving the kennel and returning to the study. List took out the thick bast paper and looked at his recorded schedule. One of the items was to invite Glanny Truth to make a new calm pearl for him. Thinking of the current financial difficulties and the fact that he could hardly afford to drink milk, he reluctantly crossed out this plan. He was not prepared to waste any more money. Anyway, he wouldn't be setting sail in the near future. The flower already had the calm pearl, so it wasn't an urgent need. Elson List. Elksun Truth, who had come to Flower Town to produce magic potions, rushed to the castle. Sir Baron, I have produced the first batch of magic potions for the Thorns magic potion you provided. Please check and verify its efficacy. He took one crystal tube after another. List finally cheered up. Thank you, Mr. Elksun. In the winter, the Flower Town has a magical public bathroom, where you can enjoy a hot bath every day. It is even more enjoyable than the nights in the Coral City. It's a pleasure to work here. Having said that, Elksun is still reluctant to move to Flower Town. The nightlife of Coral City is an irresistible temptation for single mages. The banquet in the castle resumed after the construction of the Shellwood building. Tonight would be a grand banquet. List's friends rushed from the Coral City to the Flower Town, ready to seek shelter with him. The 2 Earth Knights, Rick Footprint and Griffin Haystack, as well as Nimmo and the other trainee knight, all came together. There were a total of 7 people, which had already been agreed upon in Coral City. List warmly received his friends and handed over their work arrangements to Gort. Although they were all friends in the past, when they came to Flower Town to work, the relationship between them automatically changed to a superior-subordinate relationship. If they were determined to follow List, it would be equivalent to establishing a master-subordinate relationship. Rick and Griffin, I intend to give them to Marcus to lead. They can be reserve members of the Night Squad. Nimmo and the other 5 will start as official assistants. They are still very young and do not have much ability to preside over government affairs. Gort reported to List. You are the town consultant. How to arrange personnel is your scope of authority. I will not interfere. Thank you for your trust. Gort made a grateful expression, but it was unknown whether there was any criticism in his heart. List did not like to meddle in mundane affairs, but the number of times he interfered in the affairs of Flower Town was not small. Sometimes he did what he wanted without a reason. It seemed very willful. However, the earth-shaking changes in Flower Town and the development of Black Horse Island have given List great prestige. None of the officials in the town would complain about List's willfulness. He has been recognized by everyone as the son of glory, whether by mouth or in heart. No matter how much he misbehaves, his reputation will still not be shaken. After all, everyone knows that the future of Flower Town and List is limitless. Gort's recent letter of friendship proved this point. After the end of the development order, there were many Earth Knights who retired from the battlefield. Some people had already written to contact Gort, vaguely revealing the idea of going to Flower Town. There was even a Lord Knight whose territory was poorly managed wrote a letter to Gort. When Gort retreated, Isaiah came over again. Sir, I wonder if you have made other arrangements for your guard, Paris?
What's wrong?
Old Grandet cannot complete the snake language teaching alone. Now there are a large number of serfs who speak wind language in the territory, which is very inconvenient to manage. After the next batch of 2,500 serfs arrives, the problem will be even more serious. Your guard, Paris, can speak snake language and wind language. I see that she has no job recently and hope to ask her to be a snake language teacher. Indeed, she has nothing to do all day. I should find her something to do. Liszt did not go out, so Paris did not need a personal guard. She was a complete idler. Unlike a knight's practice, once interrupted and slacked off, her strength would quickly deteriorate. Her strength came from the Black Dragon gang. As long as she was not too fat to walk or even forget how to make a move, she could always quickly restore her strength. Calling Paris, Liszt said directly, Paris, Flower Town lacks a teacher who can teach serfs snake language. I hope you can help. He thought that Paris would take the opportunity to talk about the price. Unexpectedly, she readily agreed. My bones are itchy every day. Finally, there is something to do. Chapter 277. At night. Bathed in the warmth of the fire dragon air conditioner, Liszt took out a flame potion and a thorn potion from the gem space. The flame potion is the magic potion made from the flame mushroom, and the thorn potion is the magic potion made from the fast-growing magic thorns. For convenience of distinction, it is a concise name. Liszt first took the thorn potion, then waited a moment and then took the flame potion. Then he began to close his eyes and run his chi, mobilizing the power of his limbs to absorb the magic of the potion. At the same time, he was constantly learning the different effects of taking the two potions in different ways. The difference in physique caused even the same potion, different knight would have different effects and ways of taking it. To find the most suitable way to take it, he could get twice the result with half the effort. How can he find it? It takes time and constant experimentation. At present, Liszt had taken 3 thorns potions and had a preliminary understanding of some of the effects of the thorns potion. He was adjusting the dosage and time interval between the thorns potion and the flame potion to complete the correct test of the potion. About 20 minutes later, Liszt slowly opened his eyes and felt the total amount of chi in his body, which had quietly risen a notch, and showed a gratified smile. Every day he could feel his own strength progress. This kind of refreshing feeling is difficult for ordinary people to experience. The practice of the elite Earth Knight is a potion trial, constantly trying to take the potion so that the body can more easily absorb the magic of the potion, and break through the total amount of magic that the cells in various parts of the body can hold. He thought, took out a pen and paper and filled out the form above. This form records the different doses and time intervals of taking the potion, and the different effects. When taken more times, the data in the form is drawn into a curve chart, and it is easy to judge the best way to take the potion. This is a scientific method. Science is induction and summary. Compared to the average knight, he can explore the use of the potion at will, taking more today and less tomorrow. Liszt's scientific method is simple, fast, efficient, and accurate. Although I don't know the fundamental principles of chi practice, as a transmigrator, my understanding and grasp of practice is definitely far better than that of the Aborigines. He believed that even the Emperor's son might not be able to find a suitable way to consume the potion faster than him. I'm very confident that I can become a Sky Knight before the age of 22. The quill didn't stop. Liszt took out another thick piece of paper. There was also a table on the paper. It was a data comparison chart. It was a comparison of drug use in air-conditioned rooms and non-air-conditioned rooms. Because of the cold winter weather, when Liszt took pills, he would choose to do it in the study room and enjoy the warmth of the Fire Dragon air conditioner. However, on the first day he discovered some problems. The effects of the pills he took seemed to have increased. At first he did not pay much attention to it. After all, he had been taking pills in the study and the effects were very good. But when he went to Tulip Castle and then to Longtaro Castle, he clearly felt that taking pills outside was not as good as taking pills at home. Such a comparison made him realize that it was definitely due to the influence of the environment. It was easy to associate it with the Fire Dragon magic in the study. So he began to record the different effects of taking potions in the Fire Dragon magic environment and the ordinary environment. In the past few days, a lot of data has been recorded. In the study room and outside the study room, there is a stark difference in the effect. With the bonus of the Fire Dragon magic, the effect of taking the flame potion increases by about 5% to 2%. The Thorns potion has only been taken 3 times, and it is still impossible to judge the increase, but it should have an effect. I guess the effect of the fire dragon magic is to stimulate my fire-attributed chi. He could feel that the chi in his body was more active in the radiation range of the magic fire dragon. At the same time, the size of the magic fire dragon also determines the effect of the increase. On the premise that it would not burn people to death, List made a small magic fire dragon the size of a water tank, using the magic capacity of a whole fire dragon pot. The effect is to increase the effect of the flame potion to about 10.4%. Compared with the palm-sized magic fire dragon, it can reach a 7% increase. The magic fire dragon the size of a water tank has increased its magic capacity by 20 times, but the effect of the increase is only 1.48 times, which is not obvious. Moreover, the magic fire dragon the size of a water tank can almost heat him to death, and he can't concentrate on the potion. So after comprehensive consideration he still chose to take the potion in the study room. The temperature is just right, will not cause him to be distracted when taking the potion, and can concentrate from beginning to end. The potion continued and the form was recorded. From January 9th back to Flower Town, 2 weeks had passed and it was January 24th. The 8 blizzard beasts were strong, fighting while drinking milk, and their eyelids often trembled, which was the rhythm of opening their eyes. List began to feed them himself, forbidding others to enter the room. The siren Chi lived in the castle, eating fruit and playing with the little elf Ella. She was not too depressed, but she replenished the seawater once in the middle. It was to pull her to the beach and let her soak in the sea for 2 hours. At that time only List was on the beach, standing on a snow-covered rock, looking at the siren Chi floating in the sea, constantly playing, and his mood was as bright as the sun in the sky. After more than a week of getting along, he has inquired all the information about the siren Chi. The siren born in the sea is worthy of being called the elves of the sea. Their birth process is similar to that of the elves. One is the condensation of the essence of plants, the other is the condensation of the essence of seawater. One can control the worm stalk and affect the growth of plants, the other can control its own shell and the seawater in the shell, and control the surrounding seawater. It's just that the elves need to evolve from sprite worms, and it is only at the great sprite level that they have the intelligence of an adult. The siren has the intelligence of an adult from the beginning. Her calves are gradually growing, and the growth of feet means adulthood, but her lifespan is not clear. A chi is only a minor siren, growing up alone in the sea. The sea will tell her part of the information, and the rest is learned by listening to human ships. 41 years she learned serpentine. But she still retains the innocence and purity of the elves. The sea where a chi lives may be between Golden Island and Nova Island. She has seen many ships, all of which have flags like wheat ears, that is the flag of the Golden Wheat family and the Golden Wheat family. The Golden Wheat family is the Marquis family, and their fief is Golden Island. The Golden Wheat family is the Count family and their fief is Nova Island. The two families had separated a few generations ago, and their flags were the curved ears of a wheat tree, which was not much different. List's brother Levis and Marquis Roderick's daughter, Loria Golden Wheat Ear, seemed to have begun to date. He did not deliberately inquire about it and most of the time he only cared about himself. After swimming in the sea for 2 hours, the siren docked obediently. Siren Chi docked obediently. Although she hadn't found the mid-level sea monster Gramita recently, she couldn't guarantee that it had left. List, I have replenished the seawater. Let's go back quickly. Ella must be impatient. Now, a chi serpentine is getting more and more fluent, and her personality is getting more and more lively. She no longer has any estrangement with List. Stretching out, her beautiful curves and white skin dazzled List's eyes. Chapter 278. It was close to the time when the blizzard beast opened its eyes. As if to celebrate the upcoming blizzard beast legion, Frank Distiller, the owner of the brewery, ran all the way to the castle and reported to List. "My lord, we have distilled pure white wine." Distilled? List was overjoyed, but his face remained calm. "How is the quality of the flower wine? Compared with the gin you left in the brewery, there may be some differences in taste. The flower wine is not strong enough, but it is softer and has its own advantages." "Softer than gin. If it really meets the standard, I will give you a big reward." The group quickly rushed to the brewery, where Frank asked the apprentices to take out the brewed white wine. There were several large barrels filled with white wine that was worth more than silver. The white wine in the barrel could not be faked at all, and it no longer smelled stinky and sour. We took the pot distillation and found that although the first pot was very strong, the taste was not good. Until we reloaded the raw materials and started the second pot, the distilled white wine tasted very pure, without any mixed taste, and could reach the quality for sale. List tasted the second pot of distilled white wine. He only felt that the mouth had reached the spiciness of the white wine. After tasting it for a moment, and then recalling the taste of the gin, he suddenly felt that each had its own advantages, and it was hard to say who was good and who was bad. Go and call Gort. He turned and ordered Thomas, the manservant. A moment later, Gort hurried over. My lord, is the flower wine ready? Oh my God, I can't wait to taste it. Seeing Gort's drunkard posture, List scolded him with dissatisfaction. Don't you try the taste of the flower wine every day? The town consultant's greatest hobby in life is to drink and brag. Before the success of the flower wine, the quality of the raw pulp was poor, but he still came to the brewery every day after work to get some inferior raw pulp, and got drunk before going home to sleep. With a smile, Gort did not refute. List pointed to the newly brewed high-quality raw pulp and said, You are an expert in wine tasting. You taste it, compare it with gin, and give me a comprehensive analysis. As you wish, my lord. Gort grabbed the wine pot in a hurry, raised his head and took a sip of the fresh flower wine, then closed his eyes and shook his head. After a while, he opened his eyes, which were shining brightly. My lord, the night's glory has blessed me. Flower wine is definitely comparable to gin. It has a completely different taste, but it is equally intoxicating. Next, he took a sip of the pulp and compared the difference between gin and flower wine. One was high in intensity and had a spicy taste, but the aftereffects were strong and it was easy to go to the head. The other was slightly lower in intensity, but it had a soft taste and a small aftereffect, so it was not easy to go to the head. I think that after the flower wine goes on the market, it will definitely sell better than gin, because it has a small aftereffect so that the nobles can drink it from before the banquet to after the banquet. Gin can't last as long. Flower wine can be suitable for more aristocrats to drink, even those aristocratic ladies. In the end, Gort was already in a half-drunk state, holding the wine pot and raising his thumb. For me, flower wine is a grade worse than gin, but for more aristocrats, it is a higher grade of good wine, it is the best. After listening to his analysis, Wang Chang was stunned. List has a general understanding that gin is equivalent to Russian vodka, strong enough. Flower wine is equivalent to Beijing erguotu, not strong enough but soft. Old drunkards may choose vodka, drinking it is refreshing, but more people can accept erguotu, which is suitable for family banquets. Erguotu? It seems that flower wine is a liquor distilled in the second pot. Is that its real meaning? List thought a little. He doesn't drink often and his knowledge of liquor is still too little. He turned and asked Frank, Is flower wine graded? According to what I said, how many grades are there? According to your idea, we set the pure second pot of raw pulp as the highest grade. The first pot of refermented raw pulp mixed with the second pot of raw pulp is the second grade. The first pot of refermented raw pulp is the third grade. The third pot of refermented raw pulp mixed with the second pot of refermented raw pulp is the fourth grade. The third pot of refermented raw pulp is the most inferior. Frank and others were very meticulous. Obviously they were scolded by List last time. They did their best work before they dared to report to the castle. The most inferior flower wine, take it out for consultant Gort to taste. After drinking too much of the second pot of the highest grade raw pulp, and then drinking the third pot of the lowest grade raw pulp, Gort almost sprayed it out. The taste is very mixed, it is only a little better than the previous flower wine raw pulp, it should not be on the market at all. Then Gort drank several other grades of raw pulp, and the evaluation was different. The first 3 grades can be sold as liquor, but the last 2 grades are not qualified. List has understood. With the first 3 grades of liquor, the flower wine will be a great success, and the brewery will become the largest source of gold coins in Flower Town and the cornerstone of List's career development. From now on, the brewery will be the top secret of Flower Town, and no one is allowed to enter or leave at will. Patrols will be sent around 24 hours a day to directly separate it from other workshops. The winemakers who have mastered the technology will be strictly protected. Consultant Gort, can you hear me clearly? Don't worry, sir. I'm just a little drunk. I've listened to your instructions very clearly. I'll definitely treat the brewery as a top priority. Burp. Gort swayed his body and even burped. Seeing this, List could not trust him and sent someone to call Isaiah, the administrative officer, and gave the task to the other party. Then List began to reward. I promised you that as long as you brew qualified flower wine, there will be gold and silver coins. Now, Frank Distiller, Berdang, Huntera, I will reward you each with 1 gold coin, and the apprentices involved in the brewing 20 silver coins each. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Lord, for your generous reward. The winemakers and apprentices took the gold and silver coins and thanked him excitedly. Liszt encouraged and urged them to work hard, and there would be many benefits in the future. Brewing wine is very simple. It is far more difficult to brew qualified liquor than imagined. Fortunately, the winemakers finally brewed real liquor under the guidance of his distillation technology. In fact, the one who should be rewarded the most is me. Alas, forget it, I'd better hide my achievements and fame. There is no need to care about the gains and losses of this honor with a few serfs. After praising himself in his heart, Liszt immediately took action to prepare for the flower wine to go on the market. First, he sent someone to inform Levis. The flower wine business needs the strong cooperation of Levis in order to quickly expand the production scale, open sales channels, and recover funds in a short time. Chapter 279. This chapter is My Horse Feeds the Sheep. Levis not only sent his tutor, Frank, but also came to Flower Town in person. Liszt, has the flower brew been successfully improved? Of course you can taste it yourself. I can't miss this. 3 kinds of flower wine that can be sold on the market have been delivered to the castle, so Levis can taste the flower wine in the castle. First he drank the 3rd grade, the lowest grade of flower wine. When the white wine entered his mouth, his eyes immediately lit up. While not bad, it's pure and tasteless. Can be sold. Then he drank the 2nd grade of flower wine. This tastes better, but the wine is a little soft. Finally, there was the highest grade of flower wine. After drinking it, he had a full 3 minutes of aftertaste before he exclaimed excitedly, "What a good wine! Liszt, we are rich. The quality of flower wine is no less than that of gin. These are 2 different tastes of white wine. Flower wine is more suitable for aristocratic banquets." His evaluation was similar to that of Gort. They both saw the vast market behind the flower wine. So next, we should discuss how to expand the brewing scale and how to sell it on the market. Liszt doesn't like drinking, but he is very clear about the popularity of the white wine market. Alcohol may not be a panacea, but when it works, it can numb people's senses and relieve all pain and stress. It allows people to escape from all kinds of difficulties and frustrations in reality and enjoy that moment of haziness and peace, as if the soul is sublimated. Levis picked up his teacup, trying to make himself look less urgent. But his anxious eyes betrayed his thoughts. Leave the sales to me. Coral Island will definitely be dominated by flower wine. Red Crab Island will also be dominated by flower wine. I can also sell it to Golden Island. But how do you plan to arrange the production of flower wine? Expand the scale of the brewing workshop and recruit more winemakers and winemaking apprentices. Flower Town is understaffed. Brother, you have to support me and sell me a batch of your winemakers. I will give you 10 winemakers directly. Levis waved his hand. But they don't know how to brew white wine. You have to teach them the technique. Liszt got straight to the point. Give me their families as well. Only then will I be willing to teach them how to brew wine. Levis glared at him. You still don't believe me? Forget it, send their families over. Don't forget about the materials. There is a wide range of materials for brewing liquor. Grains, fruits, taro, and sweet potatoes can all be used to brew liquor. However, the flower wine is mainly made of corn. I will not change the main material for brewing in a short time. In the future, I will study other grain brewing techniques as appropriate. Tulip Castle doesn't have a lot of corn, but we don't have much to eat either. I'll send them all to you. Tulip Castle's corn alone is not enough. You had better plant another batch of corn this year and buy a batch of corn from various places. As the saying goes, wine is food. The yield of grain was between 25% and 45%. A caddy of grain could not produce half a caddy of wine. In ancient times, when there was not enough food to eat, the government would forbid private brewing to prevent wasting food and expanding famine. Because corn is not the staple food of Coral Island, Liszt chose to brew wine with corn. He may have become a noble and his ass is crooked in the ruling class, but he still has kindness in his heart. He doesn't want to take away the only rations of the serfs on the island because of the liquor business. However, no matter how he thinks about it, there will still be a batch of serfs' rations that will be used to brew wine. He could only try to remind him, brother, brewing wine will waste a lot of food. I hope to buy corn from the outer islands as much as possible, or give a certain tax subsidy to the serfs who grow corn. Levis looked disapproving. You don't have to worry about such a small thing. The serfs have their own reasonable arrangements. I will ensure that there is enough corn for you to brew wine and it will not delay the production of flower wine. Seeing this, Liszt could only sigh in his heart. Then he shook off these compassionate thoughts and said, "Iron, I also need a batch of iron, at least 10,000 jin for making wine-making utensils. Didn't you just get 13,000 jin of iron from Tulip Castle? I bought those myself. You will provide the raw materials for the brewery according to the agreement." "I can't get so much iron. I have to get it from Tulip Castle's warehouse. In that case, the profits from the liquor business will definitely be taken away by others." Levis frowned. "Brother, it is right to be divided the profits. Although the flower wine is a deal between the two of us, if we leave others behind, Father may not say it on the surface, but he will have complaints in his heart." "You are being sarcastic." Levis was very unhappy. "I provide the raw materials and I am responsible for the sales. I only account for 60% of the profits. You only provide the technology and even the winemaker is sent by me, so you get 40% of the profits. Now, even the mouths of the other people in Tulip Castle have to be taken care of by me. Don't you think it's too cruel? If it weren't for my technology, brother, you wouldn't be able to do the liquor business. Think about it, once the flower wine is spread, how many gold coins can be brought in every year and how many more potions can be added for you? Maybe within a year you can become a Sky Knight." Levis is 24 years old this year and will be 25 years old a year later. If he can really become a Sky Knight at the age of 25, it will at least prove that his talent is no worse than that of the Count. These words hit Levis's nerve. He grabbed his hair, gritted his teeth and nodded. "Okay, 13,000 jin of iron, I will pay, but the flower wine must be produced on a large scale as soon as possible. Of course, the technology has matured, just waiting for the materials to be ready." After Liszt finished talking about the brewing materials, he suddenly thought of the packaging problem. "How are you going to sell the flower wine?" "I will sell it as gin is sold. The liquor market on Coral Island will only have flower wine in the future. I will discuss it with my cousin on Red Crab Island. Will be very simple to take it down. Golden Island can be handed over to Luolia to sell. She should be able to eat Golden Island and Nova Island together." Liszt became interested. "Is Luolia sure to be my sister-in-law?" Levis smiled and beamed with joy. "Do you think I was just fighting during the development order? My dear brother, you still have a lot to learn. Marquis Roderick has approved my union with Luolia. I will go to Golden Island in March to confirm things. It seems that this matter is already clear." Liszt gave a thumbs up and returned to the topic. "There are 3 grades of flower wine. Do you want to package it?" "What packaging? Just make it the same as gin." "I'll get the pottery workshop to make a batch of clay pots to use as wine bottles," Levis replied directly. "That's not right. Flower wine should be distinguished from gin so that the nobles can see it at a glance." Liszt rejected Levis's idea and said, 10-year flower wine, packaged in wooden bottles, carved with a yellow tulip, sold for 5 to 15 silver coins, occupying the small aristocratic market. 50-year flower wine, packaged in pottery bottles, carved with a red tulip, sold for 50 to 80 silver coins, occupying the middle aristocratic market. 100-year flower wine, packaged in jade bottles, carved with a black tulip, sold for as much as it is expensive, limited, mainly for high-ranking aristocrats. Where did you get the 10-year-old and 100-year-old wine? Levis was surprised. Chapter 280. So 10 years and 100 years of aging are all deceiving? It's not deceiving, it's propaganda. But flower wine is just freshly brewed liquor, it has not been aged at all. How much do you think the taste of flower wine is worse than gin? Since there is not much difference between the two, why can gin be called a cellar wine that has been aged for many years? Because it is really an old wine that has been in the cellar for many years. Liszt suddenly felt that Levis was really naive. The quality of gin is formed because of cellar aging. The quality of flower wine is not inferior to it, so it can also be called cellar aging. There is no conflict. And our positioning is very clear. The 3 grades clearly distinguish the gap in status and can strengthen all levels of aristocracy. Do you really think this is better? Of course, no one knows how we brew it. If we say it is 100 years old, then it is 100 years old. Wooden bottles and pottery bottles are very simple, but jade bottles, wouldn't they be too expensive? You can make less jade bottles of flower wine and convert the value of the jade bottles into it when you sell it. You can also package it in crystal bottles. Anyway, it reflects the grade of flower wine. You can even carve a bottle out of gems and let my father give it to the Grand Duke for publicity. Give it to the Grand Duke? Of course, the Grand Duke drinks flower wine. What confidence do those aristocrats have to refuse flower wine? The Grand Duke has a liquor industry under his command. He doesn't need to pay tribute at all. Just ask the Grand Duke to taste it. As long as the flower wine is not sold in Blue Dragon Island, it will not threaten the Grand Duke's liquor industry. Will the Grand Duke not give his father a little face? As the sword saint who founded the Earl family, Lee William Tulip is definitely a high-level figure in the Grand Duchy of Sapphire. The Grand Duke will definitely win over such a new noble to check and balance the old Marquis family. As long as Lee William and the Grand Duke clearly explain the sales scope of flower wine, there will be no conflict at all. If the Grand Duke is greedy and doesn't want the Tulip family to occupy the Grand Duchy of Sapphire's liquor market, flower wine can be sold to the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom, or even the Eagle Kingdom. Smuggling liquor is also one of the businesses of many fleet caravans. The only difference is the problem of selling more and less. Levis was still thinking. On the other side, Frank reminded him, Levis, regardless of whether the tribute to the Archduke succeeds or not, it will not affect our interests. If we adopt Baron List's suggestion of packaging the wine in different grades, it will only cost us a little. If it fails, we can return to the method of selling gin. It is acceptable. Since that's the case, let's give it a try. The flower brew business, so far List and Levis have discussed it clearly. The rest is for their respective subordinates to manage it. There was no need for the Lord to personally participate. When I came here, I heard that your docent had offspring, 8 little flying dust dogs. Levis quickly diverted his attention. Let me take a look. This is the descendant of World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, big brother. They haven't opened their eyes yet. It's not suitable for them to see people for the time being. They haven't opened their eyes. Levis exclaimed. They haven't opened their eyes? List, aren't we brothers? I've never mistreated you. Needless to say, List has understood Levis's meaning. He wants the little blizzard beasts. But he will never give it. Even if the other party pays for it, he will not sell it. Brother, although this is the descendant of World of Warcraft, their mother is just an ordinary flying dust dog. Dosen was not fully evolved at that time, so this batch of descendants is likely to be low-level World of Warcraft. Wait for the next batch. If the next batch of puppies is born, I will definitely sell them to you. After several excuses, seeing List's firm attitude, Levis was very dissatisfied. But for the sake of the next batch of puppies, he could only bear it. Then it's settled, the next batch of flying dust dogs must be sold to me. Well said. List nodded and agreed. It was more of a bluff. Not to mention how to sell them and how many he would sell, it is doubtful whether stupid woman can get pregnant again. The higher the bloodline of World of Warcraft, the more difficult it is to have children. Intermediate World of Warcraft Dosen, after the transformation of his bloodline, can he make stupid woman pregnant again? It is debatable. Perhaps these 8 little blizzard beasts are the only descendants that Dosen can leave behind as a flying dust dog. Luncheon. Drinking fresh flower wine. Levis didn't know if it was because the liquor business was about to make money, he was too excited, or because he didn't get a blizzard beast. In short, he drank too much and was so drunk that he couldn't tell north from south. He put his arm around List's shoulder and his mouth was full of alcohol. List, I'm beginning to envy you. You left Tulip Castle, and the night's glory favored you. Everyone began to say that you are the son of glory. I'm always bound in the castle, Lytton. Complaining after drinking, List was helpless. In order not to let the family scandal spread, he directly dismissed everyone at the banquet. Levis said a lot of drunken talk about how the Count was biased towards Lytton, how his own resources were robbed, how much pressure the Sky Knight was under, how his luck was not as good as List's, how Tatiana was pregnant, but he had to abort the child for Rolia. Then, with a snap, he fell on the table. List called the servant and helped Levis into the carriage. He did not ask him to stay the night in the castle. Mr. Frank, take care of Levis. Please rest assured. At this time, Captain Lydon, who was guarding Levis, came over and glanced at Londo standing under the apple tree. He sighed. Baron List, Londo is in Flower Town, please take care of him. Londo Kettle was his illegitimate child. Even though he had been recognized by the family, he still could not give more support. Captain Lydon, don't you want to talk to Londo? There is no need. Lydon Kettle bowed. I will escort Sir Levis back to Tulip Castle first. If you have time, I hope you can come to Flower Town as a guest. You are always welcome. The convoy set off. Levis came in high spirits and went back drunk. It was a rewarding trip. The flower brew business was a great help to him and to List. Standing in front of the castle window, List drank the only remaining glass of dragon milk. The stimulation of the residual alcohol made him excited. With the liquor business, Levis can probably be promoted to a Sky Knight. As for me, I will definitely be promoted to a Sky Knight. At that time, the Tulip family will have 3 Sky Knights. I am afraid that the Count will not be promoted to a Marquis. The father and son trio went to the battlefield together. As long as they did not encounter a Dragon Knight, it would definitely be the end of a sweep. Sooner or later they would be promoted to a Marquis. However, the Marquis family is by no means my goal. It is just a stop on my way to riding a dragon. With my talent, plus the wealth brought by the development of the territory, it is very likely that I will be promoted to a Sky Knight before the age of 22. It will take another 5 or 6 years for the Sky Knight to complete, and then I will look for clues about the dragon. Find the dragon and ride it. A small goal in life is completed. Chapter 281. The workshop area is separately planned for a huge factory area for the expansion of the winemaking workshop. The carpentry shop, blacksmith shop, bonesmith shop, and hoop barrel shop, under the organization of officials, work together to make winemaking utensils from morning to night. Even the Brad family, who presides over the crystal workshop but can only carve volcanic glass all day long, has received a new task to carve some key equipment with volcanic glass. The town is bustling and the castle is as calm as ever. It's just that on the shelf of List's study, there are some more bottles of flower wine. He doesn't want to drink it but to keep it as a souvenir. These are the real raw pulp of flower wine. After completing today's night cultivation class, List went back to the bathroom to take a bath and then went to the worm room. He chatted with the Siren Chi and enjoyed the beautiful scenery by the way. Recently, the Siren Chi has been obsessed with reading all kinds of books. She can't read, so List often teaches her. He doesn't know if it's a racial talent, but she learns things very quickly and soon remembers a lot of snake language and can read independently. She likes to study those magic books and is very curious about magic. At this time, the shell is open. The thorn sprite Ella is soaking in the sea, which is a part of a chi. List touched it with his hand. It's not much different from ordinary sea water. It's probably warmer and not as cold as ordinary sea water. It's hard to imagine that the seawater will eventually grow into a chi's feet. List, you're here. While a chi is still reading? I'm reading Fredo's Fireball. Fredo Truth, the magic apprentice, is so funny. He rubbed the fireball with the back of his hand. He's silly. A chi closed the book and smiled sweetly. Ella closed her eyes and heard List's voice. She opened her eyes and looked at List, then continued to soak in the seawater, enjoying the warmth very comfortably. Behind it, there are 9 sprite worms of different colors also swimming in the shell sea. There's no need to guess that it was Ella who threw the sprite worms in. It's funny, but magicians are human beings with abnormal ideas. List poked Ella's belly with his hand, only to poke Ella away. They are in the shell. Will they disturb your reading? No, Ella and the bugs are very quiet. Only here will it be quiet. Outside, Ella is a tyrant in Flower Town. Hearing bad things about herself, Ella was not happy. She popped her head out of the sea and shouted "wow" in protest. However, after being glared at by List, it obediently retracted its head and continued to soak in the bath. They chatted for a while. A chi suddenly raised her hand. List, do you think magic should be released like this? As she spoke, she seemed to be gathering magic power. Meditate to form a bridge between spirit and magic power, to be intimate with them, to experience them. I can only be compatible with the magic of the water attribute. They are like many docile babies that can listen to my call. Then, something unexpected happened to List. Her slender jade-like hands actually condensed a ball of water little by little. This ball of water twisted slowly and then elongated into a spiral shape of an arrow. I read a magic book about water arrow. I think the magic principles recorded in the book are very simple, and I seem to be able to do it easily. The crystal water arrow was so clear and real. List cast magic eyes to observe and clearly saw that the magic of the water arrow originated from the free magic in the air, not from a chi's own magic. This was the magic released by the magician. It was unexpected that it would be formed in the hands of the siren. A chi, you released the water arrow outside the window. Oh. A chi obediently pushed her hand, and the water arrow, like a real arrow, flew out of the window and eventually disappeared into the sky. The water arrow flew out. List, did I learn the magic water arrow? You learned it. List's eyes lit up. He had overestimated the role of the siren as much as possible, thinking that this was a strategic help for him to set off the era of navigation. But now it must be corrected. The siren can not only play an important role in navigation, but she also has the potential to become a magician. A water magician. At this moment he had an irresistible idea to cultivate the siren Chi into a great water magician, or even a water magician. With her self-taught talent, it seems that it is not impossible for her to become a water magician. In his excitement he couldn't help but reach out and rub the siren's blue hair. I will collect all the magic books that record water magic. You can concentrate on water magic and strive to become a siren magician in the future. Can Chi be called a magician? Of course, as long as you work hard. Yeah. One happy event after another. The flower brew was successfully introduced, the siren Chi learned magic, and then List fed the little blizzard beasts for half a month. Finally, at the end of January they opened their eyes one after another. The first person they saw was List. That look represented their recognition of him as their master. Perhaps this so-called recognition of a master has not reached the level of unswerving loyalty, but it means that the 8 little blizzard beasts all regard List as the closest person, a father or a mother. In the future they will be slowly trained and cultivated, and like Dosen they will listen to List. How should I name them? List was a little embarrassed. There were 8 in a row, all covered with black hair about the same size, and it was difficult to distinguish them from each other. In fact, List has forgotten the order in which they were born. Finally, referring to the way he treated Dosen, List decided to make a collar for each of the 8 blizzard beasts. The collar is decorated with the nameplate of each one. The color of the nameplate must be different so that at first glance, one can tell which one is which and which one is not called the wrong name. He also decided to keep the blizzard beasts separately. He had raised dogs before, so he knew the horror of a litter of dogs. Once they go crazy they will destroy the world. They will be raised and trained separately. When all the blizzard beasts can reach a state of obedience, they will be gathered together for military training. They will be prepared for the battlefield in the future. Master, all 4 kennels have been covered with cotton mats, and the blizzard beasts can be moved in. The dog collars you ordered to make have also been delivered by the leathersmith's shop, a total of 8 pairs. Butler Carter walked into the room and said, "Then move out today and clean the entertainment room carefully. Especially the smell must be removed, it is too unpleasant." "I will tell Mrs. Morrison to deal with it." Carter asked again, "So what names do you want to engrave on the nameplates of the 8 blizzard beasts?" "Wait until I think about it first." "Yes." When the servant began to send the 8 little blizzard beasts one by one into the kennels separated into 4 positions, List waved his hand and called out the smoke mission. Completed the mission and rewarded 8 intermediate World of Warcraft blizzard beasts. Seeing the smoke serpentines, List smiled faintly. Sure enough. Chapter 282. Mission. Because the flowers has reduced the number of trips to the sea, there is not enough wood for the construction of Black Horse Island. Marcus decided to cut the sporadic trees on the island, but encountered a deadly bee attack. Please clear the beehive to prevent more people from being stung by the bees. Reward, a sprite worm. The smoke serpentines flowed gently in front of his eyes, and the content was reflected in List's mind. Very good, finally there is a sprite worm reward. Since obtaining the corngrass sprite worm, he has not harvested any sprite worms for 2 whole months. Of course, this has something to do with the arrival of winter and most of the plants stop growing, but List is very regretful. Sprite worms are the inseparable productivity of the Lord. Now, finally there is a new mission and the reward is a sprite worm. I don't know what kind of sprite worm it is, but there are not many clues. Anyway, let's get rid of the beehive first. List was full of fighting spirit. It is not difficult to get rid of the beehive. One must know that the knight has a full body armor. During the time when Flower Town made a lot of money selling seafood, List saved up a full 20 sets of knight equipment. Among them there is a fine steel armor that wraps people from head to toe. After wearing it, no matter if it is a poisonous bee, a mad bee or a killer bee, they will all be killed. I just hope not too many serfs die. Marcus, who was far away on Black Horse Island, thought the same as List. After the flowers returned from Black Horse Island, he immediately reported to the Lord, "Sir, unfortunately, there is a killer beehive on Black Horse Island. A total of 16 serfs died under the stings of the bees. I came back this time with a few sets of full body armor and completely obliterate the bees." He brought back the corpses of several poisonous bees. Each poisonous bee is the size of a thumb, and there is a larger queen bee guard. Even as an elite Earth Knight, Marcus did not dare to approach the hive easily. He could only retreat and seek the protection of the knight's full body armor. "I will go with you to Black Horse Island and see what a killer bee looks like," List said in a deep voice. He not only wanted to find the sprite worm, but also wanted to see if the killer bees had honey. If there was honey in the beehive, it would definitely be top-grade honey. Honey was a top ingredient in the aristocratic diet, but no one could raise bees, so they could only send serfs to collect honey in the wild. Every year, a large number of serfs who collected honey were stung to death by various bees. There were few beehives in the flower town. Even if there were, he would not send serfs to collect them. Exchanging the lives of serfs for food, he was not that cruel. Liszt decided to tag along. Marcus had no objections. However, he had other things to report. Although the problem with the felling of the trees this time was due to the surprise attack of the poisonous bees, it was also because the management was too loose. The serfs were lazy and went to a faraway place to defecate, which led to their deaths by the poisonous bees. Sir, Port Town needs more management personnel. I understand. I will arrange it as soon as possible. As a lord of action, since there was a problem, he immediately took action to solve it. After pondering for a while, he called for Griffin Haystack and Russell Steele. Griffin was an orphan and a friend of Liszt at Knight College. Russell was a civilian and his family had moved to Flower Town. Looking at the two Earth Knights, Liszt asked seriously, "Russell, Griffin, can I trust you?" Griffin replied without hesitation, "Lord Baron, I came to Flower Town to seek refuge with you, and I am ready to follow you at any time." "I am also ready to follow you at any time." Russell was unwilling to fall behind. "So, I am going to send you to a place to do something, and you may not return to Flower Town for a long time. Russell, you have to take your family with you. About 2 or 3 years, you will not be able to return to Flower Town. Will you still be willing?" "Lord Baron, what official business do you want us to perform? Griffin and I are enough. Why do you want to bring my family?" "It is indeed official business, but there is no danger, just a little hard work, and it needs to be kept secret. As for what official business it is, I can't tell you." Liszt looked at the two of them, "But I can assure you that there will be a reward for your efforts, a generous reward." When Griffin heard this, he said directly, "Lord Baron, I am willing." Russell hesitated a little and nodded. "Since Russell has decided to follow Lord Baron, I will naturally listen to Lord Baron's arrangements." Liszt nodded. "Then from today on, you will officially be incorporated into my night squad." This was the meaning of accepting the follower. Griffin and Russell instantly woke up, knelt on one knee and solemnly performed the night etiquette of following and pledging allegiance. "I am willing to serve my lord. Get up, pack your luggage, fully communicate with your family, and gather at Flowerport tomorrow morning." "Yes, lord." The next day, the flowers braved the wind and waves and arrived at Black Horse Island in the afternoon. Russell and Griffin learned that they had been sent to work on a deserted island, and this Black Horse Island would become the Lord's fief in the future. "In the future, my night squad's training will be arranged on Black Horse Island. Russell, Griffin, and teacher Marcus will serve as the captains of the night squad and be responsible for the daily training of the night squad. The construction of the port town will also be led by him. Construction needs to be diligent and training needs to be adhered to," Liszt said. "Yes, lord." Knight was an existence that could fight on horseback and be an official when dismounted. Without staying too long, Liszt took the 3 Earth Knights to the location of the poisonous bees. All 4 of them were wearing steel knight armor, riding on their mounts, and even their eyes were covered with barbed wire mesh masks. With such airtight equipment, it would be easy to kill the poisonous bees. Leaving Dosen and the horses in the distance, Liszt and others walked to the poisonous bee's nest. "My lord, it's just ahead." Marcus pointed not far ahead. "Can you see the big tree? The honeycomb is on the branches of the big tree. It's huge and can be seen very clearly." "I see it. Let's go and try to kill all the poisonous bees before dark." The Earth Knight's pace was very fast, and after a while he had arrived under the tree. He didn't know why the serfs who came to defecate had to run so far. In order to be lazy, they even put their lives on the line. It was really speechless. Buzz buzz. The poisonous bees had discovered Liszt's group of 4. Without hesitation, they summoned their companions and began to take the initiative to attack. A poisonous bee the size of a thumb flew with great momentum, but they could not break the defense of steel. The 4 Earth Knights ran their chi, waved their swords and killed these big poisonous bees one by one. Especially Liszt, he was the strongest elite Earth Knight, and his chi was of the fire attribute with explosive characteristics. Every time he used his skills, the flames in the sky could burn a large number of poisonous bees. The honeycomb was very large, at least 1.5 people tall. Tens of thousands of poisonous bees flew out and fearlessly rushed to the 4 people, but the result was in vain. They could only turn into corpses under the swords and fell to the ground. "My lord, I'll go up the tree and cut down the honeycomb." Griffin's Do Chi was of the thunder attribute. Lightning was dancing on his long sword. Although he was just an ordinary earth knight, his combat power was quite fierce. Using both hands and feet, he easily climbed up the branches. The poisonous bees surrounded him from the inside and outside, unable to stop his movements. He pulled out his sword and aimed at the root of the branch, chopped the whole branch and fell to the ground together with the honeycomb. The 4 earth knights. They surrounded the fallen honeycomb and madly killed the poisonous bees. Chapter 283. The species of the poisonous bee was unknown, and no one cared what kind of poisonous bee it was. Chi gushed out and the limbs flew around. When the sun was about to set, the poisonous bees were almost dead. Even the honeycomb was split open, and the queen hidden inside was found and directly strangled. Only a small number of poisonous bees flew away. According to the habits of bees, they would linger here for a few days until they were sure that the hive no longer existed, and then they would completely fly away. Teacher Marcus, remember to warn all serfs that this area is not allowed to come over. Understood, sir. At this time Russell suddenly shouted, "Sir, it's honey, there is honey in this hive." "Is there really honey?" List lifted his mask and looked along the section of the hive that Russell had opened. Sure enough, he saw the golden honey, exuding a faint tempting sweetness. He opened it deeper with his hand and found that there were white larvae in many hives. This was a pupa. It was about the thickness of an index finger and the length of a thumb, and it was plump. Seeing these white pupae, List almost drooled. He had eaten fried pupae which tasted delicious and crispy. Moreover, pupae contains high protein, low fat, a variety of vitamins and trace elements, and is a very nutritious ingredient. Now this poisonous hive, which is half the height of a person, can take out at least 10 kilograms of pupae. There's something to eat. Russell Griffin, you lift the pupae and carry it back. The honey and pupae inside are good things, I want them. Yes, sir. As the two spoke, they were about to carry the hive, but they could not lift the hive at all, and their faces turned red. Didn't you eat? Marcus asked speechlessly. According to the strength of the Earth Knight, although it could not be said to be infinite, it was at least several times that of an ordinary adult. It should not take so much effort to carry a poisonous hive of less than 500 kilograms. When Russell heard this, his face turned even redder. He used all his strength and madly circulated his chi, which shook the poisonous hive. Griffin, who was carrying with him, suddenly found a problem. Captain Marcus, the hive and the trunk here seem to be stuck together by something. No wonder we can't move it. Stuck together? List also walked over and checked the part where the poisonous hive was connected to the tree trunk. He found that, as Griffin had said, there was some white substance that stuck the two tightly together. He couldn't pull it apart. It should be the sap secreted by the tree. Why is it so sticky? Looking up the white substance, it happened to be the broken branch that had been cut by Russell before, leaving a lot of juice, which flowed all the way here and then dried and solidified. Seems to be stickier than 502 glue. Glue, solidification. List felt that this kind of thing was very unusual. If he used it, it should have a very wide range of uses. At this time, Marcus had already pulled out his steel sword, aimed at the part that was stuck and swung it. Dab, dab, dab. After 3 consecutive strikes, the white substance only had a small crack. There were no signs of it splitting apart. Let's cut a few more times, Teacher Marcus. Use your chi. List signaled to Marcus not to stop and to continue cutting to test the strength of the juices. Marcus did as he was told. With his chi, a cyan light was attached to the long sword. He aimed at the white substance and slashed. Gotcha. This sword finally split the white substance, and the poisonous hive and the trunk were completely separated. What is so hard? I used all my strength to cut it off. The sap flowing down from the big tree. Teacher Marcus, Russell, Griffin, we may have found something better. List pointed to the big tree in front of him with a smile on his face. The big tree was a very common miscellaneous tree. List had studied this tree as early as the second time he landed on Black Horse Island to look for the keel. The trunk was very straight, the branches were high, not lush, there were no flowers or fruits, and it did not grow tall. When the new year came, the leaves were slightly yellow. Now the leaves were completely yellow. The initial conclusion was that this was a deciduous tree. It was ordinary and could probably be used as wood. He also planned to cut down all the miscellaneous trees near the pasture when there was enough manpower to expand the pasture farming area. Now it seemed that it was fortunate that it was not cut down. The tree that could produce such a strong glue was clearly a treasure given by nature. The sun was setting. List was not in a hurry to go back. Anyway, there was no World of Warcraft on the island, so there was no danger. Griffin, you aim at the tree trunk and cut it with your sword. Yes, sir. A sword went down and the bark cracked. About a minute later, white sap began to ooze from the cracked part. List picked up a little of the sap with a wooden stick and then stuck it to the trunk, shaking it from time to judge the speed of the sap's adhesion. After about 5 minutes of exposure to the air, the sap began to solidify. After solidification, it was almost unbreakable. The effect is very strong. Do you see its roll? He asked proudly with the intention of showing off. The sap of this tree was undoubtedly a natural adhesive, and from the degree of hardness after solidification, it was definitely comparable to the existence of rubber, equivalent to the product of the mixture of rubber and 502 glue. The importance of rubber was beyond doubt, and the usefulness of 502 glue was also very great. The advantages of both were undoubtedly a more valuable natural glue. However, Marcus and the other two did not realize this quickly, so they seemed a little confused. Griffin even replied in a serious manner, "Maybe two things can be glued together? It looks a bit troublesome, sir. When serfs cut down trees, they may also glue their axes to the tree trunk." Cut down trees? Sir, aren't you planning to cut down all the trees on the island to expand the range of the grassland? That was the previous plan, but now it has been changed. The grassland is needed, and this tree is even more needed. List said unquestionably, "You may not understand what I just said, but the sap of this tree is a good thing, a very good thing. In my opinion, it is more valuable than gold." More valuable than gold? The sap can be used directly as glue to bind objects. For example, a cooper's bucket with glue. As long as two wooden boards are gently glued together, it will be a perfect bond, neither loosening nor leaking. It is wasteful to use it for a bucket, but it may be suitable for binding weapons. List calmed his excitement and continued, "Of course, first of all, it is necessary to determine its nature, durability, fire or water resistance, how to collect and store it, and so on." Having said that, he suddenly remembered that the smoke mission had been completed, and his sprite worm should have arrived. While letting Marcus and the other two study the nature of the natural glue, he silently summoned the smoke mission. However, he found that the mission content had not changed, and the mission to eliminate the poison bee hive had not yet been completed. It seems that the mission can only be completed after all the poison bees fly away and the danger is completely removed. However, this tree in the mission. Looking at the tree trunk and thinking about the mission, he felt that the two seemed to be related. Could it be that my 10th sprite worm is related to this tree? Chapter 284. A flash of magic light, pale yellow, seemed to be the magic of the earth attribute just at the crown of the big tree. The tree was not tall and List could see the crown clearly. The magic came from the top of the tree where a large circle grew. There was no doubt that there was a sprite worm inside. In other words, this tree was a worm stalk. Realizing this, List suddenly felt distressed. Russell cut off a thick branch and Griffin slashed the trunk with a sword. They were simply going against their own sprite worm. "Teacher Marcus, Russell, Griffin, this tree is a worm stalk." He touched the rough bark. "My sprite worm is being bred and I feel its existence. You must protect it, and when it is born I will come to contract again." "Is there really a sprite worm?" Russell clicked his tongue. Marcus was not surprised. He knew that List's eyes were like torches. "Sir, please rest assured that I will arrange for people to patrol the tree at any time. Once the sprite worm is born, I will inform you immediately." Griffin said excitedly, "Russell, you just cut off the branch of the worm stalk and I cut a hole in the worm stalk. Sir is really the son of glory, the knight of glory. Our flower town has another sprite worm." It was not known whether he was excited for the sprite worm or for cutting the worm stalk. No matter what, the three people, who were a little confused about the natural glue, quickly paid attention to it because of the gestation of the sprite worm. For them, a sprite worm that could breed a sprite worm was a valuable plant. In their minds, the sprite worm was a symbol of nobility and an embellishment of power. List looked at the worm stalk tree in front of him and was in a good mood. Although 16 serfs died because of the poisonous hive, it is sad. But there are gains and losses, and we have new crops and sprite worms. I now give this tree the name rubber tree. This rubber tree is not the same as the rubber tree on Earth, it just borrows the name. The sprite worm that was about to be bred became the rubber tree sprite worm. It was dark. He collected some rubber samples, carried the poisonous hive, and picked up some of the bodies of the poisonous bees and brought them back together. After returning to Port Town, he immediately found wooden planks to make a box and put the poisonous honeycomb into the box. Teacher Marcus, the venom sacs of the wasps can be collected and refined. Perhaps we can obtain a good poison. Speaking of poisons, the flower town's fast-growing poisonous thorns were truly poisonous. The thorns on the thorns could pierce the skin, forming ulcers and leaving scars, but they couldn't kill. However, after refining and tempering the poison into a weapon, ordinary wild beasts would at most twitch a few times, even if they didn't die upon contact. Even against World of Warcraft with mana, it could deal heavy damage and weaken World of Warcraft for a short period of time. Moreover, World of Warcraft's regeneration would decrease for a long period of time. It had the same effect on the knight. Using poison was not an honorable act. It went against the noble qualities of a knight who charged head-on. However, it was only a poison that had a weakening effect, so it was fine to use it. In a war, one had to rely on one's own means and one couldn't rely on hot-bloodedness. The loser was the bandit, the victor was the king. Only the victor was qualified to show his noble character. The loser would either die, go bankrupt, or become a serf. In any case, there was nothing noble about it. Marcus understood this truth and immediately nodded, saying, "I will take people to pick up the corpses of all the wasps and dig out their venom sacs to refine the poison." Very well. Early the next morning, List returned to the flower town by ship, leaving Marcus and the others to continue presiding over the port town's construction. The first thing he did after returning to the castle was to order the servants to clean up the poisonous honeycomb. "Mrs. Abby, take people to pick out all the pupae from the poisonous honeycomb and then scrape out the honey. First, find small animals to test if there is any poison. If there is none, then add it to my recipe." Oh heavens, what a big hornet's nest. My lord, just wait to enjoy the delicious pupae. When I was a child, I often dug out hornets' nests to find those cute and delicious pupae to cook. And this honey, look, it's golden and tempting. Mrs. Abby looked left and right around the huge poisonous honeycomb, feeling very excited. Since coming to the Flower Town's castle, under List's intentional or unintentional pointers, she had become a well-known top chef. Everyone said, "Mrs. Abby is clever and skillful. Mrs. Abby's dishes are amazing. Mrs. Abby's mind is full of food," which made her intoxicated. She had fallen into the business of constantly developing new dishes, and it was getting out of hand. For this reason, the castle not only recruited a new serf chef as her assistant, but also recruited 2 new kitchen maids. One was the chef Yulia, a serf bought from the Eagle Kingdom and had no surnames. The other 2 kitchen maids, Ollie and Kelsey, were also serfs bought from the Eagle Kingdom and had no surnames. Unlike the Grand Duchy of Sapphire, many serfs in the Eagle Kingdom did not have surnames. They had farmed for generations and had little mobility, so they basically did not need surnames. For example, the sisters Paris and Maggie had no surnames. Berdang and Hunt Era, who assisted Frank distillers in brewing, also had no surnames. In the history of the founding of the Grand Duchy of Sapphire, a large number of serfs were purchased. In order to facilitate the census and strict control of serfs, all serfs were forced to add surnames. Noble words were not allowed to be used, which directly resulted in the surnames of civilians being a mess of lowly words. Before becoming an aristocrat, the surname of List's ancestors was the lowly word Tile. After the rise of the tulip sprite, the surname was changed to the noble word Tulip. While Mrs. Abby was busy stirring up the poisonous honeycomb, List began to train the 8 little blizzard beasts. According to his instructions, a new nameplate had been hung around the neck of each blizzard beast. Storm, flame, come. Woof. The temptation of jerky is the fastest way to enhance feelings. The fat blizzard beast had no resistance to jerky and quickly rushed to List, licking his hands in the jerky. The storm had a green nameplate around its neck, and the flame had a red nameplate around its neck. According to the method summarized by Dosen, the 2 little blizzard beasts were trained. He continued to go to the other 3 kennels. The one with a yellow nameplate is a rock, the one with a dark blue nameplate is a wave, the one with a purple nameplate is a thunder, the one with a white nameplate is a light, the one with a light blue nameplate is an ice and snow, and the one with a black nameplate is a shadow. The names of the 8 blizzard beasts correspond to the 8 magic attributes of wind, fire, earth, water, thunder, ice and darkness. There is not much meaning and it does not match their physical characteristics, it is just to distinguish them. After a lap of training, an hour and a half had passed. List took the milk tea handed by the housekeeper and drank it. The workload is too much and the work of training dogs is a waste of energy and time. He has a hunch that during the growth of the blizzard beasts, he may not have the leisure time to write Dragon Wars in the wild. It seems that it is really going to become a series of history books in my lifetime. Although there are no more updates, Old Buy is still as explosive as ever. I hope that everyone will have a good time and vote for Old Buy. Chapter 285. After training the dog. It was completely dark and the castle was already preparing dinner dishes. List went upstairs to talk to the siren Chi, which has become his regular habit. Chatting with the innocent Chi is a kind of relaxation for the soul. List, look, I copied Frito's fireball and I can also rub water arrows with the back of my hand. The siren Chi said happily. A water arrow condensed on the back of her hand, and with a gentle push, the water arrow flew out of the window like a sharp arrow. Learning magic was like getting a new toy for her, and she had a lot of fun playing with it. Look, not only can I rub water arrows with the back of my right hand, but I can also rub water arrows with the back of my left hand. My next step is to rub water arrows with my knees. What do you think of this idea? Apart from being surprised, List didn't know how to express it. Magicians can rub fireballs with all parts of their body, which is not difficult. The magic apprentice Fredo Truth rubs fireballs with the back of his hand, which is technically difficult. After all, magic apprentices can't be compared with magicians, and they are too weak in terms of mental control. The siren Chi can rub water arrows with the back of her hands in a few days. This control is amazing. Chi, how did you think of rubbing water arrows with your knees? The predecessors who wrote the magic books said that the most important thing for a magician is imagination and creativity. Chi found that no one casts spells with their knees. If Chi succeeds, she can also write a book. Well, it will be called Chi Royd's Truce Water Arrow, Yes, Chi is already qualified to publish a book. It seems that you have a thorough understanding of water arrows. I have to find more books on water magic for you as soon as possible. The inheritance of a magician is relatively hidden. In addition to simple basic magic, there will be special magic books to discuss new ways of casting spells with each other. There is no book inheritance of advanced magic at all. Just like a Knight's Do Chi secret skill and a Sky Knight's cultivation secret book, both were hard to find even with money. The Tulip family has been working hard for many years, but they don't even have a Chi skill book. If it weren't for the guidance of the Smoke Mission, List wouldn't have gotten the magic eye at all. Looks like I have to have a good chat with Elk Sun. In List's view, Elk Sun is a magician who attaches great importance to enjoyment, and the possibility of getting a magic inheritance from him is relatively high, as long as he is willing to spend money. For the sake of Chi's path as a water magic shooter, List gritted his teeth and was willing to bear the costs. After all, Chi's formidable strength meant that the safety of the voyage would be greater. Thinking about it, with a water mage accompanying them, they wouldn't have to be afraid of encountering any sea monsters. Even if Chi didn't have the talent to become a magic shooter, she would still be a powerful great mage. Hearing List's words, Chi nodded happily. Thank you, List. Chi, why don't you call me Big Brother? Within 3 seconds, List decided to tie up the future water magic shooter with kinship. Chi tilted her head and looked like she was thinking seriously. But Chi is already 41 years old. List, you're only 17. You're a siren and I'm a human. Age can't be calculated like that. I'm already an adult and you're still an underage siren. Of course you have to call me Big Brother. Okay, Big Brother. Chi is very good. Come, Big Brother will give you a black pearl. You can use it to study the magic runes and magic arrays recorded in the magic books. List took out a fist-sized black pearl and handed it to the siren Chi. From the giant clam shell, a total of 16 black pearls were harvested. A black pearl the size of a wash basin was still lying quietly in the gem space, waiting for the right time to be made into a calm pearl. 2 basketball-sized black pearls, one had been made into a calm pearl, and the other was about to be made into a calm pearl. 3 bowl-sized black pearls were not used. 10 fist-sized black pearls, 2 were sold to Levis, 1 was given to Marquis Merlin, 1 was paid to Glanny Truth, and 1 was given to Chi. There were 5 left. Holding the black pearls, Chi smiled brightly. Wow, what a beautiful black pearl. I can feel a lot of water attribute magic elements. Holding hands like a gentle baby, it's like a natural magic array. Thank you, Big Brother. I will study the black pearls and learn magic runes and magic arrays. Study hard. I still have a few black pearls. When the time comes, you can help me make magic equipment. Well, Chi will work hard. The siren clenched her small fists and pretended to be excited. Compared with the cautious she was when they first met, she was now lively and lovely. He couldn't help but reach out and rub her beautiful blue hair. He really hoped that Achi could learn as soon as possible and then ask Achi to help him make the calm pearl. After all, he asked Glanny Truth to make the calm pearl, and the cost of all kinds of materials was sky-high. The last sea-calming divine pearl had cost him a fist-sized black pearl. He poked Ella, who was still in the shell. List left the room. The castle's dinner party had begun. In the snow-covered flower town, there were no lights at night, so the work would end earlier. Only the brewery was still working all night. "Lord Baron, I heard that Russell and Griffin have pledged allegiance to you and arranged to carry out tasks?" Randy Kettle suddenly asked before the banquet began. "Yes. Randy hopes to follow my lord." "I accept your following." List was not surprised by Randy's request and said directly. Then there was the etiquette of the knight's allegiance. After acceptance, the relationship between the follower and the lord was officially established. This meant that Randy's fate was in the hands of List, and List would bring him more glory, with Randy taking the lead. Rick Footprint, Nemo and others also announced to follow List. Among the officials of Flower Town, Isaiah, who did not follow List, also took the opportunity to ask to follow. The Flower Town in front of them was no longer a remote rural town, and the List in front of them was no longer the timid second son of the Count. Flower Town was bound to rise with List. Everyone knew that if they did not follow him now, there would be more and more talents in the future. If they followed him again, there would be no advantage. After all, the followers of the elders were certainly more valued by the Lord than the new followers. Seeing the young people performing the knight's following etiquette, Zambrata, who was not young, hesitated. He came to Flower Town to see List's potential and hoped to use List's rise to regain the glory of the aristocracy. But such a hasty following was not what he wanted. As a former Lord Knight, he had his moments of glory and remembered the difference between himself and civilians. Even if he was deprived of his title and demoted to a civilian, he still retained his pride, coupled with his talent of being knowledgeable, self-righteous, and unwilling to easily lower his status. However, at this moment, there was no room for him to continue to be aloof. If he did not follow him today, he would be remembered by List. Since I have to follow him sooner or later, I should be straightforward. List will restore the glory of the Count and become a new great aristocrat. I can't lose this opportunity. Chapter 286. This chapter is The Legend of the Wasteland Ranger Apocalypse. All the town officials are loyal, and there are no outsiders in Flower Town. Of course, there doesn't seem to be much change except that the people are more united. Whether now or before as the Count's son, List's authority has not been shaken. The atmosphere of the dinner was cheerful. As a lord, it was inevitable that he drank a few more glasses of wine, which was the specialty flower wine of Flower Town. He felt slightly drunk. At the end of the dinner, he left Elkson behind. "Mr. Elkson, please wait a moment." "Lord Baron, what can I do for you?" "If I remember correctly, you are good at earth and water magic." "Yes, you have a good memory." "Then, I would like to buy some knowledge of water magic from you." Seeing Elkson frowning in embarrassment, List added, "It is a bit rude to ask a magician to buy magic, but please believe me, I am more curious about magic, and I will pay enough symmetrical gold coins." Elkson thought for a moment. He looked around again to make sure that there were no idlers nearby and hesitantly said, "Lord Baron, you know that I am not a lofty, paranoid magician, and my love of gold coins is far greater than my pursuit of truth. I am willing to help you purchase magic books and produce potions, but selling magic will completely ruin my reputation. For me, there will be no transactions about buying or selling magic, and you don't have to worry about the sudden emergence of an unknown magician. I myself will not learn magic, and I am well aware of the dangers of a knight learning magic. In that case, I am willing to sell magic. The price is reasonable, and I need all the water magic you have mastered. Don't you need the other magic? Since selling one type of magic is selling, Elkson certainly hopes to sell more. I am good at earth and water magic. I also dabble in wind, fire, and ice magic. At present, I have mastered 16 types of magic. If the Baron buys all of them, I can sell them at a lower price." Originally, List only intended to buy water magic. But listening to him, it feels good to buy them all in case they can be used in the future. Confirm the price of the spells first. If it's suitable, I can buy all of them. If it's too expensive, I'm only willing to buy water spells. Although I'm a lord, I have a large family and a large business. I don't have much extra money to spend. You should know that. List began to bargain. He was not ready to let Elk Sun charge a sky-high price. There was more than one mage on Coral Island. There are 4 types of magic that apprentices can learn: water arrow, flying rock, fireball, and wind blade. Lord Baron can learn them from the magic books. Elk Sun said, I mainly master the magic of the magician stage. The water element has water arrows, water wheel wall, water bomb, water whirlpool. The earth element has rock thorns, earth wall, rolling stone, rock cannon, earth platform. The fire element has big fireball, fire wall, fire snake. The wind element has light body technique, multiple wind blades, ice blade, and the great magician stage magic, earth rock grenade. What's the price? At the magician stage, one magic costs 2 gold coins, and the great magician rock grenade costs 20 gold coins. The total is... He counted twice on his fingers. A total of 50 gold coins. This price is absolutely cheap. Even if I want to exchange magic from a fellow magician, the cost will not be lower than this. To be honest, the price was not too expensive. But taking out 50 gold coins at once, List was still a little distressed. He didn't have much liquidity. After thinking about it, he said, keep the rock grenade for the time being. 30 gold coins for your 15 magics. But I can promise that as long as you can get more magic, I can continue to buy them at today's price. You should believe in my development potential. It's not difficult to buy magic. It was a pity that he didn't sell the rock grenade for 20 gold coins, but Elk Sun still nodded. Of course, Lord Baron, your future is as broad as the sea. Then I will go back and write the magic casting plan. If you have any questions, you can ask me directly. Taking out 30 gold coins, List handed it directly to the other party. Happy cooperation, Mr. Elk Sun. He was not afraid that the other party would run away with the money. This was Coral Island. Happy cooperation, Lord Baron. With the motivation of the gold coins, Elk Sun sent the 4 written water magic casting plans to the castle the next day and continued to write the rest of the magic. List handed it directly to the siren. Ichi, I found 4 new magic for you. This is magic that can only be mastered by the magician stage. I don't know if you can learn it immediately. If you can't master it, then meditate more and exercise your mental strength. Well, thank you, brother. Ichi will study hard and strive to become a siren magician, hee. By the way, you should go to the beach today to replenish your water. Don't be busy reading. Let's go to the beach for 2 hours. Well, Ichi really needs to change the seawater in the shell. The seawater is not fresh. Ichi reached out and stirred the seawater in her shell. The seawater still looked crystal clear. He didn't know how the siren could tell whether it was fresh or not. Seaside. Snowflakes were flying and winter was still not over. It would not stop snowing until mid-February. This strange world has a very different climate and hydrology from the Earth. For example, List recently discovered a very important message, that is, the length of day and night in winter in Flower Town is equal. There will be no long days and short nights, and there will be no short days and long nights. This supports his previous judgment. If this world is a planet, then there is no inclination of self-rotation. He also looked up the description of some night novels. It seems that winter and summer are the same throughout the continent. As for the temperature difference, the countries in the south of the continent often do not have snowy weather in night novels. There is even a night novel that describes the southernmost part of the continent. There is a country there, known as the Country of Fire, where the weather is hot all year round. Does this mean that the southernmost part of the continent is already very close to the planet's equator? That is to say, the continent I am on is just a continent in the northern hemisphere of the planet, not the whole world? The siren Ichi took a bath at the beach and laughed like a silver bell from time to time. Ella flew on the shore, looking at Ichi and shouting from time to time, "Wow!" Dosen was lying in the snow, the storm and flames crawling around him. He didn't know if he knew that these 2 puppies were his children. Anyway, he tolerated them climbing and biting him. List continued to fantasize about astronomy and geography. Chapter 287. The units of measurement in this world were not the same as those on Earth. As a transmigrator, he did not bring any items that could be used as a comparison to determine whether this was the world of giants or the world of ants. He could only infer the breadth of this world according to the proportions of his body. According to his research, his height had grown to about 187 meters and he was the tallest person in the tulip family. Assuming that he was the same size as himself on Earth. The Coral Island was equivalent to the area of a prefecture-level city in China, with an average of 10,000 square kilometers. The Red Crab Island was equivalent to the area of a small and medium-sized province, with an average of 100,000 square kilometers. Then the Grand Duchy of Sapphire had more than 10 islands the size of the Red Crab Island, as well as the even larger Blue Dragon Island. The area of all the islands added up to about 2 million square kilometers, which was about one-fifth the size of China. The Grand Duchy of Sapphire was just a remote island state in a corner of the continent, and its area might be smaller than other duchies and grand duchies. Its suzerain, the Steel Ridge Kingdom, had 7 vassal states, which added up to more than China, and the area of the Steel Ridge Kingdom itself was twice the size of all the vassal states added up. In other words, the area of the Steel Ridge Kingdom and its vassal states added up was equivalent to the size of the Asian continent, 45 million square kilometers. The Eagle Kingdom, the enemy of the Steel Ridge Kingdom, had a slightly smaller area and one less vassal state, with a total area of about 30 million square kilometers. The Blast Furnace Kingdom, the neighbor of the Steel Ridge Kingdom, had a larger area and more vassal states, with a total area of about 60 million square kilometers. The total area of these 3 kingdoms added up, plus some offshore deserted islands, could exceed the total land area of the Earth, 149 million square kilometers. But these 3 kingdoms were only located in the northeast corner of the continent. The area of the entire continent was probably 20 times the size of the 3 kingdoms. After all, the area of any one of the empires on the continent was larger than several kingdoms added up. On this continent, Liszt clearly knew that there were 3 empires: the Unsetting Radiance Empire, the Blue Dragon Empire, and the Noble Frost Empire. The surface area of the Earth seemed to be 500 million square kilometers, and the area of this continent could reach 3 billion square kilometers, which was equivalent to the surface area of 6 Earths added up. It sounded inconceivable. But the fact was that the continent was so large that if the Sapphire Duchy, located in the northeast corner of the continent, wanted to know the news of the countries on the other side of the continent, they would not rely on rumors, but on legends. Legends said that the emperor of the Unsetting Radiance Empire had been on the throne for 200 years, and legends said that the Unsetting Radiance Empire had a howling valley where storms blew all year. A continent of 3 billion square kilometers. Liszt took a long time to accept this fact. However, according to the data he had collected recently, such as the change of seasons and the temperature of the continent, there were even more unbelievable facts waiting to be verified. If I haven't forgotten all the geography I learned in my first year of high school, the information I have now shows that this continent is just a small piece of land in the northern hemisphere. It doesn't even cross the equator or approach the North Pole. After crossing the equator, the temperature of the continent would gradually decrease, but the southernmost part of the continent was the hottest country, which meant that it had not crossed the equator. When they were close to the North Pole, the sun should be hovering around the horizon. However, the sun was slightly slanted above their heads, indicating that they were still far away from the North Pole. Even the position of the continent is probably only between the tropical and temperate zones. It hasn't even entered the cold zone. After all, the sun is always above our heads and it's not very inclined. He felt. According to the geographical location of Earth, it was roughly equivalent to Southeast Asia. So, if I live on a ball, how big is the ball? With his poor imagination, he couldn't solve the difficult equation of knowing the surface area of the ball and finding its volume, so he couldn't compare it with Earth. Are there other continents besides this continent? According to the legend of the Grand Duchy of Sapphire, beyond the Aquamarine Sea was the Devil's Sea, where devils walked. Even the Dragon Knight couldn't cross the Devil's Sea. It seemed that apart from the continent, the rest of the world was an endless sea. No one knew what was on the other side of the sea and no one was curious. The vast and boundless continent was enough to attract the attention of all the nobles. Liszt still remembered that when he was sighing about the endless wealth of the sea, Marcus didn't think much of it and only wanted to go to the continent to build a career. Now it seemed that the development of the sea was extremely difficult. Not to mention crossing the Devil's Sea, even sailing inside the Aquamarine Sea was dangerous at all times. Ghost ship Tulu Mida? He suddenly remembered, right, I almost forgot the book Philip Sun's Descendant's Diary. The descendant of the Sun's child, who had the same bloodline as the old leathersmith, should have come from another continent and was exiled here. So there must be a new continent with a new human civilization. The drifting bottle that stored 36D ghosts and was only used for communication had a high level of craftsmanship and magical use, showing that it was a highly developed magic society. Thinking. He took out the drifting bottle from the gem space. It had a special metal texture and exquisite engraved patterns. He had admired it countless times. There were also countless speculations, but in the end, nothing was found. Maybe one day the smoke mission will issue another mission related to the sun's child. At that time I can make use of this drifting bottle. By the way, I have collected many bottles of the old leathersmith's blood in the past 6 months, enough to open the drifting bottle hundreds of times. When he had free time he would ask the old leathersmith for some blood. Then he would ask Jesse to give the old leathersmith a lot of tonics, fearing that the old leathersmith would die from excessive blood loss. Perhaps it was the health benefits of regular bloodletting, or perhaps it was the effect of the tonics, but the old leathersmith lived younger and younger. List even heard the butler Carter say that the old leathersmith had discussed with Jesse whether he should find a wife or not. Perhaps he could have a son if he worked hard. In this regard, List did not interfere. He hoped that the old leathersmith could find a wife, preferably with offspring, so that he could collect more blood of the son's descendants. He repeatedly opened the drifting bottle. After playing with it for a moment, he put it back into the drifting bottle. List took out a piece of rubber and studied it. The rubber of the rubber tree he was ready to carefully explore and figure out all its characteristics. First was its hardness. The hardness of the solidified rubber was equivalent to the marble used to build a castle. Second was its fire resistance. Flames had no effect on it, and it was completely fire resistant like stone. It was water resistant and would not change when immersed in water. It also did not react chemically with all the liquids that List could find. It was extremely sticky, but because it had already solidified when it was brought back, it could only be judged that when it was glued to wood, it was almost integrated with the wood. Its weight was very light, similar to plastic. Chapter 288. The new rubber still needs a lot of data analysis, and a way to collect and preserve the rubber needs to be found. Although he is a man of action, he is not impatient. On the contrary, he pays great attention to personal enjoyment. After satisfying his personal enjoyment, he will consider working hard. Master, your retainer Knight Philip Wool has returned from Tulip Castle and brought back news that Miss Lavera is dissatisfied with your gift of flour soap as a birthday gift. Butler Carter reported solemnly. Flour soap as a gift has become List's standard. He smiled slightly. I am reminding her that personal hygiene is important. Flour soap is not cheap. She can wash it and throw it away. The soap workshop in Flower Town has gradually expanded. After completely defeating Baron Henderson's soap business, it has successfully forced the other party to change to soap powder supply. In other words, Flower Soap has unified the Coral Island market. Under the leadership of the two businessmen Sherlock and Harpagon, they have cooperated with Tulip Castle and Beer Castle to sell to the outer islands. Every day the market is expanding. The exquisite flower soap can easily beat the old-fashioned soap, so the revenue is increasing. Even in winter, when baths are not frequent, it can still make a net profit of 5 gold coins a day. At a time when the seafood business is completely depressed and the flower wine has not been on the market, the castle depends entirely on the revenue from the flower soap. As for the peanut processing workshop, there is little revenue from the town's tax revenue. To List's considerable surprise, in this cold winter, the 2 public bathrooms can bring in dozens of silver coins every day. The foreign businessmen, as well as the nobles of North Valley City, would rather take a carriage and come to Flower Town to take a hot bath. Some people will rest in Flower Town. Because there are too many people resting, the commercial district is deliberately divided into 2 two-story wooden houses in the name of the castle industry. One is a hotel, the other is a restaurant, and there are plans to open a pub. The town is becoming more and more popular, and the civilian business is booming. Raynal of the bakery can sell all kinds of bread every day. The old leathersmith of the leathersmith shop has recruited 4 apprentices to help and pass on his craft. The grocery store is even busier, and Harriet's family, including Maggie, have to be busy selling. There were also those commoners who sold eggs, vegetables, and wild fruits. They could always sell out their baskets. There were more and more caravans coming to Flower Town to do business. The more than 2,000 serfs in the territory had bulged their pockets and their desire to consume was growing. Even the North Valley City's burlesque troupe often came to the Flower Town to perform and received a lot of tips. At least, when List came to watch, he would throw a few silver coins at them every time. He was purely spending money to hire a burlesque troupe to enrich the life of the townspeople. He even ordered for a few oversized snowmen to be built in the town square. The huge snowman was as tall as a 3-story wooden house and could be seen clearly from the castle. The children in the town loved to circle around the snowman. The snowman had a name, Snowbow. What are you doing, Paris? When List walked out of the castle, he saw that the mercenary was also making a snowman. It seemed that she wanted to replicate the snowman in the town square. The castle is too monotonous. There should be a snow treasure. Have you finished today's snake text lesson? Today is Sunday. You made a rule that I can have a day off every Sunday. Paris was seriously making a snowman even though it was ugly. Since you have nothing to do, come and fight with me. Can we not fight? I am not your opponent at all if I don't transform. Lord Baron, there is no point in you fighting with me. You can't say that. I am now going to use an ordinary sword and no longer restrain your light and shadow entanglement. I will seriously rely on my basic strength to hone my fighting power. Paris stood up. As you wish. On the open snow. Liszt held a steel sword and did not release the magic eyes. He fought Paris seriously. The effect of the light and shadow entanglement was obvious. Without the buff of the red blood sword, he was in a sorry state. However, the benefits of taking potions for a long time were reflected. Even if he left the red blood sword, he still had enough chi to make mistakes. Dang. The steel sword collided with Paris's big sword and the friction created sparks. The strength given to Paris by the Black Dragon gang was resolved by Liszt with his chi. This collision was a draw. After several subsequent collisions, no one had the upper hand and who was in a disadvantageous position. Liszt, who did not use chi and gem weapons, was almost at the same level as Paris, who did not transform. Liszt was so tired that he was gasping for breath. He was not a genius to be able to quickly break through and defeat an opponent of the same level in a battle. Paris, on the opposite side, was also panting. Her full chest was moving up and down, and her hands holding the big sword began to tremble. Again. Dang. The steel sword and the big sword collided again. This time, the steel sword in Liszt's hand suddenly made a slight cracking sound, and the next moment, half of the sword had already spun out. When Paris saw this, she raised her eyebrows and unceremoniously launched an attack. She wanted to take the opportunity to defeat Liszt in one fell swoop. My sword is not as strong as Paris's big sword, this is bad. Liszt was anxious, he did not want to lose to Paris. In the recent actual combat training, he was the one who abused Paris, and he has long been accustomed to victory. However, Paris, who has been abused for a long time, naturally knows that this is a rare opportunity, and the hope of defeating Liszt is at this moment. Ha! The big sword was like a tiger, and Liszt, who was holding the half-broken sword, was forced to retreat again and again. In the face of such a dangerous situation, Liszt slowly calmed down, and his mind was clear and crazy, thinking about how to deal with it. Suddenly, he thought of a way. When Paris raised her big sword again and was ready to attack, he did not retreat but instead, like a vigorous cheetah, rushed directly to Paris who was in front of him. His hands directly wrapped around the opponent's waist and fiercely threw her. In a night battle there is almost no such close combat scene. Paris did not react in time, and Liszt took the initiative on the spot and completed the close combat. When she wanted to counterattack, she had already fallen to the ground together with Liszt. Due to inertia, the two of them rolled like a gourd. In order to prevent Paris from counterattacking, Liszt wrapped his hands very tightly, forcing Paris to be unable to twist her body, and the big sword was also thrown away. After 5 or 6 rounds it stopped rolling. The battle immediately came to a stalemate. Liszt wrapped his hands around Paris, unable to attack again, Paris also unable to counterattack. No one can do anything to the other. However, when Liszt felt his hands suddenly become soft, he suddenly found that he was pressed down by Paris. Her full chest happened to be pressed against his head, and a large area of the round elastic area stuck to his face and continued to press down, almost suffocating him. You can let go of me. Paris's voice was strangely soft. But Liszt did not feel embarrassed at all, still maintaining his original position. How about a draw? Up to you. Okay. Only then did he let go. Paris forced herself to use her arms and rolled off him. Chapter 289. After brushing off the snow on his body, Liszt had regained his usual elegance. Although there was still some lingering charm of suffocation on his face, his eyes were exceptionally clear. A hearty battle was enough to dissipate the restlessness that originated from the physiology. He picked up the great sword that Paris had dropped on the ground and found that the blade was not damaged at all after so many collisions. This great sword of yours is forged with exquisite craftsmanship. We have fought more than a dozen times and it has never been damaged. It should not be made of ordinary steel. After receiving the great sword, Paris's beautiful face still had a trace of redness, and her slightly panting voice exuded a languid air unique to women. Her eyes flickered brightly. This great sword came from the collection of a Viscount of the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf. I don't know the level of craftsmanship, but I found it pleasing to the eye, so I took it. After all, she was a female thief, and it was natural for her to say that she had stolen something. Yeah. List noticed the sweat on her face and the thin shirt under the leather armor. He said, "The battle is over. Go back and take a bath and change your clothes. It's cold, don't freeze. I also have to go back and change my clothes. Let's go." Just as he turned around, he heard Paris shout, "Sir Baron." "What's wrong?" List looked back at her. Paris sheathed the great sword on her back, revealed a bright smile and said in a sweet voice, "Thank you for your concern. You are a good person." BFFF. List received a second good person card. Of course, these were the good person cards that truly represented a good person. He waved his hand and walked away without looking back. Paris was left standing in the same place. She bit her lip and charmingly looked at his back for a while before following him. In the castle bathroom. While soaking in the indoor hot spring, he called out the smoke mission. He found that the smoke serpentines had changed. Mission completed. Reward, a rubber tree sprite worm. The poisonous bees flew away, and the danger was declared resolved. Next. Another change and a new mission was created. Quest. Dosen has been restless recently. It feels like its magic is about to rush out and wants to vent, but it doesn't know how to vent. Releasing rock thorns can't alleviate the urge. As its master, you should solve this problem for Dosen. Reward, Dosen's new spell. Oh. List raised his eyebrows. This was the second type of magic that Dosen had begun to comprehend. The previous rock spike or multiple rock spikes could only be considered a single type of magic. For example, the purple sand crocodile who had mastered water arrow volley would definitely be able to release a separate water arrow spell, which was a prerequisite skill. Does Dosen need my help with the second kind of magic? But I don't have much research on earth magic. The earth magic sent by Elksun seems to be a reference. Earth wall? Rolling stones? Earth lifting platform? Or the rock grenades I didn't buy? After the bath, he immediately took out the thick bast paper that recorded the casting plans of these earth magic spells and carefully memorized the theories. He was ready to help Dosen verify one by one to determine which one it would comprehend. If it's an earth wall, let the serfs come over and pile up a few walls with earth. If it's a rolling stone, let the serfs push the stone to roll on the ground, or directly roll a snowball. If it's an earth lifting platform, we can also pile snow to let Dosen understand the truth. It was impossible to let Dosen understand the principles of magic casting. He could only follow its instincts and give it a little inspiration. After planning this, he immediately took action. First, it was the simplest snowball which the castle servants could do. Tom, Thomas, Jesse, Parker, Jim, and John took turns to push the snowball over and over in the meadow. List took Dosen and constantly urged Dosen to release magic. However, Dosen looked at the vast snowball scene and still only released rock thorns. After tossing back and forth for half an hour, he didn't comprehend anything, and there were no signs of new magic. The plan failed. Replace the earth-lifting platform. List immediately ordered the servants to start piling up the snow together to build a platform. The magic of earth-lifting platform was to use earth magic to complete the lifting of the ground. He didn't know if the imitation was not good enough, or if this was not the magic Dosen wanted to comprehend, but the servants were tired and sweating, and Dosen still only released rock thorns. The plan failed again. Replace the earth wall. The earth wall and the earth lifting platform were similar in nature. It was a half rock and half earth wall formed by lifting and lowering the ground, which could block some attacks. Casting magic consumed a lot of magic, and it was much more difficult than magic like rock thorns. The serfs desperately dug several walls, but still failed to trigger Dosen. A day passed, but Dosen didn't comprehend anything. The next day, List repeated the action again, but Dosen still didn't comprehend anything. Sometimes it could be clearly felt that Dosen seemed to want to release a new magic, but after a long time, it was still rock thorns. Without inspiration, there is always a foot in the door. Just as he was thinking about how to help Dosen comprehend new magic, Ella didn't know how she came out. Instead of continuing to take a bath in a cheese shell, she screamed, picked up the snow on the ground, rolled it into a small snowball, and threw it at Trembling Woods. It felt that List was too close to Dosen these 2 days, which made it very dissatisfied. So the snowball served. Dosen was hit by the small snowball and didn't respond at all. He didn't care about Ella's poor fighting power at all. It was this disdain that made Ella suddenly furious, forgetting List's ban. She raised her hand and sowed seeds, and thorns quickly sprouted between Dosen's hair. In a moment, Dosen was wrapped in a ball. List did not stop it. He had a bit of a disappointed iron not steel mentality. He taught Dosen for 3 days but he couldn't understand any magic at all. Stupid. So the arrogant Ella began to act violently, and the rapidly growing thorns pricked Dosen all over his body, making him scream. He thought that List would help him stop Ella, but List was indifferent. Dosen finally couldn't stand it and jumped up to chase Ella. But Ella could fly, and no matter how high he jumped he couldn't bite Ella. Seeing that there was no way out, Dosen was so anxious that his dog eyes were almost red, and his rock thorns were stuck in a mess. List looked at the situation and felt that the lesson was enough. He was about to stop Ella from continuing. Suddenly Dosen opened his mouth and a magic flew out, condensed into a rock in the air and whistled straight to Ella. Ella, who was still proud of herself, was frightened by the flying rock and fell directly from the air. The rock flew over his head and burst in mid-air, and the rock splashed large snowflakes. This was obviously a new magic. Dosen's new magic had been released. When the blow missed, he rushed over and opened his mouth to bite Ella, who had fallen to the ground. "Shut up, Dosen," List hurriedly shouted. Ella was his baby. Deep in the bones of obedience, Dosen stopped in an instant, staring at Ella, who was close at hand, and growled. List rushed quickly, picked up Ella, and confirmed that Ella was not hurt. He was relieved and turned to look at Dosen, who was still growling in a low voice. Chapter 290. On the palm of his hand. Whoa! Ella cried aggrievedly, trying to win List's sympathy. But List's eyes were all on Dosen. He asked his servant to come and help tear off the thorns on Dosen. He was quite excited. Just now, in a rather dangerous situation, Dosen successfully released a new kind of magic. He condensed a flying and exploding rock in the air. Is this the rock grenade owned by Elksun that can only be mastered by a great magician? Elksun had the rock grenade casting scheme, but he didn't know how to cast it himself. He needed the mental control of a great magician to release this level of magic. Dosen's new magic was probably this kind of relatively advanced magic. Woof! Dosen barked at List. He was probably accusing List of covering up the evil thorn sprite Ella. But List could not punish Ella. He just ordered Ella to go back to the worm room immediately and not to come out. Then he took out a few pieces of jerky and threw them to Dosen, comforting him and rewarding him for learning new magic. When Dosen finished eating the jerky, he immediately ordered, "Dosen, release the magic." Dosen opened his mouth. In the distance, a rock thorn broke through the ground. "Not this, it's the new magic you just learned. Come on, release it here." List pointed to the air. Dosen froze for a while before opening his mouth and spitting out magic. Hula, a rock about the size of a wash basin, quickly condensed and exploded. He had ordered Elksun to come. "Mr. Elksun, what kind of earth magic do you think Dosen's new magic is?" Elksun said in surprise, "This is a rock grenade, a very powerful earth magic. Dosen has completed the intermediate World of Warcraft bloodline transformation. He has successfully mastered the rock grenade that only a great magician can learn. But his rock grenade is a bit weak. I have seen a great magician cast a spell once, and the condensed rock is the size of a water tank. It was weak because Dosen wasn't used to it yet. Once mastered, the rock grenade would be greatly improved. Now, Dosen had finally mastered an aerial attack method. When facing the Sky Knight, it would no longer be passive and could take the initiative to attack. After thinking about it, if the Sky Knight jumped up and attacked, Dosen would immediately open fire. A few rock grenades would definitely be able to repel the Sky Knight's attack. Well done, Dosen. From today onwards we have a new training course. Listen to my instructions, Dosen rock grenade. Dosen was dumbfounded. It took him a long time to spit out a rock grenade. It hadn't formed a conditioned response to the rock grenade yet, so it needed time. But in any case, Dosen now has the combat power of intermediate World of Warcraft, which is comparable to the Sky Knight. Riding on Dosen, List was in high spirits and his heart was full of pride. Now that I am on Coral Island, no one should have any objections. He even thought of it. With Dosen's combat power and the future of the 8 little blizzard beasts, he doesn't need a night squad. He can directly lead the blizzard beast army to the battlefield. Of course, the territory is inseparable from the support of the night class. After all, the blizzard beasts are big eaters. If the territory does not develop, it will not be able to afford to raise them. Just eating and drinking for the 9 blizzard beasts costs hundreds of gold coins a month. And when I go to the battlefield, I also need a night squad to serve the blizzard beasts and guide them to participate in the battle. If I were to command them by myself, the scene would be very ugly. However, with this year's expedition order, I will be able to join the battle with the Count. The heart of making meritorious service has been stirred. Black Dragon Gang Paris is the personal protection. Dosen is the main output, plus a night squad to assist from the side as well as the care of the Count and Levis. By the way, he should be able to get enough credit with the least danger. Little by little, he should be able to accumulate power before he is 20 years old. He should be able to rely on his military merits to be conferred Viscount and turn Black Horse Island into his own fief. With his own island, with the help of the Smoke Mission, with the knowledge and vision of a transmigrator, it is hard to say how brilliant the future will be, but he will definitely ride a dragon. Mission completed. Reward Dosen's new magic rock grenade. Mission: Carpenter Carrasco is lost in thought. He helped the brewery make many novel wooden utensils, which brought him too much inspiration and made him understand that he does not like to make tables and benches every day. He is eager to create. Please give him some advice. Reward: variation of the rubber tree sprite worm. Teach Dosen new magic. The mission was completed immediately. But the newly issued mission surprised list. Carpenter Carrasco probably wants to make Lu Ban. I will give him a few ideas later. I don't know how to make wooden oxen and Juga crossbow, but I can still learn about rocking chairs, drawers, wheelbarrows and crooked plows. But the variation of the rubber tree sprite worm, what does it mean? Directly mutated into a sprite? List felt that it was unlikely. He had never heard of plants directly giving birth to sprites. But in addition to directly mutating sprites, what other aspects of mutation could there be? He thought for a long time but still had no clue, so he simply stopped thinking about it. Finish the mission first. Carrasco, I appreciate creative craftsmen the most. List immediately asked someone to check the information of Carpenter Carrasco, and soon got feedback. Carrasco was a serf purchased from the Eagle Kingdom and currently worked in the carpenter's shop. He was not a skilled craftsman and was considered a weirdo in the carpenter's shop. Other carpenters would take care of their own lives after work, but he had little spare time and spent all day staring at the wood in a daze. Sometimes he would pick up wood and randomly make some strange things. For this reason, when the fief's officials came to the carpenter's shop to inspect it, they often scolded him. It seems that the era has limited his thinking and has not given him a suitable environment to let his ideas fly. List secretly thought. He quickly rushed to the carpenter's shop with the retainer knight. He wanted to personally inspect Carrasco's carpentry work. In the carpenter's shop, sawdust flew all over the place. After the serfs saluted, they were reprimanded by the steward to continue working. List went straight to Carrasco. What about your amateur carpentry work? Show it to me. Sir Lord. Carrasco, half nervous and half unfamiliar with the language, stammered a few serpentines. Don't be nervous, Carrasco, said List gently. In the fief, he had always presented himself as noble, gentle, and benevolent. The role of the villain was played by other officials. After feeling the kindness of the Sir Lord, Carrasco finally dispelled his nervousness and laid out his amateur carpentry work one by one. A 5-legged stool, a chair with backrests on all 4 sides, a triangular table. The only thing that looked like it was a few bowl-shaped teacups. This was not creativity at all, it was a lack of nerve in the brain. List finally understood why the inspecting officials scolded Carrasco. If not for the smoke mission, he would have also scolded him. What was with the chair with backrests on all 4 sides? How could people sit on it? Was it a crib? A triangular table? Was it really not afraid of stabbing people to death? But since there was a smoke mission. Chapter 291. Carrasco's serpentine was terrible, but even with a translator, there was still no way to communicate smoothly. Because his speech was always stuttering, he could not fully express what he wanted to express. People who had immersed themselves in work all their lives and had never received any education should not be expected to be able to express themselves proficiently. Even if he had a myriad of ideas, it would still be useless if he could not express them. List did not have time to waste with him. Since you have so many ideas, then I am going to give you some ideas and let you realize them. Carrasco, can you do it? Sir Lord, Carrasco can do it. Very good. Do you see this drawing? List took out a drawing that he had prepared, which depicted a rocking chair. This is a rocking chair. Do you understand? Carrasco took the drawing. After looking at it for a full 10 minutes, he slowly nodded. I understand, Sir Lord, Carrasco can do it. The drawing was very well drawn. It was not just a drawing, but it was explained from several aspects. He believed that as long as one was not a fool, they would be able to understand it. The rocking chair itself was a very simple piece of furniture. There were no rocking chairs in this world. During the winter, when the sun occasionally came out, Liszt could only sit on the rocking chair with a hard back. He could not enjoy the atmosphere of rocking and falling asleep. With the rocking chair, not only could he read a book while basking in the sun by the window in winter, but he could also enjoy the cool air under the apple tree in summer. After leaving the carpentry shop, he thought, a rocking chair should be able to open Carrasco's mind and let him fly. If not, he was prepared to teach Carrasco the drawers, rocking beds, crooked plows, wheelbarrows, antique shelves, and other wooden products that did not exist in this world. If he could only rely on the rocking chair to complete the task, then Liszt would still slowly invent these things. However, at that time he would arrange for skilled carpenters to build them. It is time for the carpentry shop to be upgraded to a carpentry workshop and expand its scale. Fast-growing iron thorns will soon become timber. When the time comes, the Flower Town's wooden products will become a new specialty. After all, they are ironwood quality wooden products. Tables with drawers, cabinets, rocking chairs, cribs, and chic antique shelves suitable for aristocratic collections should all be popular. As for the crooked plow and wheelbarrow, Liszt had not decided whether he should develop them or not. These tools could already be defined as strategic items. Once invented, they would greatly promote the development of productivity. However, the technical content of these tools was relatively low, and it was very easy to plagiarize. At that time, it might not only boost the productivity of Flower Town, but also the Grand Duchy of Sapphire. He never denied his selfishness. As a noble, he had to keep the good things for himself. I should wait until I have grown stronger before I develop these strategic items one by one. At that time, I can rely on my first-mover advantage to rapidly expand my strength and achieve leaps and bounds in development. With the current size of the Flower Town, I cannot rely on these means to develop by leaps and bounds. Think clearly. Thus he was no longer troubled. Back to the castle to check the progress of Achi's magic practice. Achi, how is it? Can you use water arrow volley now? Not yet, brother. In Achi's hand, a water arrow slowly appeared, but she was unable to condense a second water arrow. It feels like water arrow volley isn't that difficult, but Achi just can't make a second water arrow. I've tried so many times. Isn't Achi stupid? How could that be? Liszt rubbed Achi's beautiful blue hair again. He liked the feel of it. It was as soft as silk and as moist as water. Magic training is not something that can be accomplished in one go. Compared to those magicians who need several years to learn water arrow, you are already a genius. Achi immediately said with a smile, well, Achi also thinks she is a genius. She rubbed her head against Liszt's hand. She enjoyed Liszt's touch very much. This gave Liszt quite the feeling of cultivating a magical girl. It was a great sense of accomplishment to slowly cultivate an underage fairy-like creature that belonged to him into a powerful magic platform. Occasionally he would warn himself, at least 3 years, the maximum penalty is the death penalty. His eyes swept over Achi's perky chest and he said with a smile, do you feel bored staying here every day? No, Achi likes her current life. She can read books and learn magic quietly, and she no longer has to worry about being chased by Murumida. I thought you would like the sea very much. Well, Achi likes the sea very much, but compared to magic, I have lived in the sea for 41 years. When I learn a lot of magic and can beat Murumida, I can go out to sea with my brother and play around. Now I need to read. She raised a magic book at her hand, and there was a pilgrimage glow on her face. Magic helped her open the door to a new world. Achi will become an outstanding water magic shooter, I firmly believe in this. Liszt got up and left. You read and learn magic quietly. Fresh fruit is on the table. Take it if you want to eat. In addition, look after Ella. I'm going to punish her by not going out for 3 days. The siren nodded. Achi will help my brother look after Ella. In the corner of the shell there was a whisper, wow. Although Carrasco's ideas were a bit off track, after receiving Liszt's guidance, he made the first rocking chair within 2 days. Because it was his first time making it, he had no experience. The rocking chair was crooked and not in line with ergonomics. The rocking chair was sent to the castle. After seeing the real thing, Liszt almost didn't recognize it as a rocking chair. The ratio of the rocking legs on both sides was so different that sitting on it not only hurt the buttocks and the back, but also felt that the rocking chair would tilt at any time. Carrasco, sit on it and feel it. Liszt stood up and said lightly, yes, my lord. Carrasco sat on it and swayed hard. Liszt asked, what do you feel? It seems that it's not as solid as an ordinary chair. It's a little hard on the buttocks. These two swaying legs of the chair have to be of the same standard, and the curvature has to be maintained. It can't be too big or too small. There is also a chair back that can lie down. It must be flat and not hard. Continue to improve the rocking chair, don't let me down, and strive to make a qualified rocking chair. Yes, yes, my lord. With more contact with serfs, Liszt would not get angry easily. Even if the serfs were stupid, he would just calmly accept the facts. He had 2 lifetimes of experience and vision, so he saw and understood problems more deeply. Serfs had not received education, their vision was narrow, and their thinking would definitely be rigid. Just like several carpenters in the Flower Town carpenter's shop, they had never thought of innovating any new furniture or tools except to work according to instructions. Carrasco's ideas were off track, but at least he still had ideas. When you make a qualified rocking chair, you will get a reward from me. Now go and do your work seriously. Liszt waved his hand, and the servant sent Carrasco and his rocking chair out of the castle. Liszt took a sip of fresh dragon milk tea and summoned the smoke mission. He thought that the mission was not completed. After all, Carrasco's rocking chair was seriously unqualified, but it was clear that the smoke mission did not set high requirements. The smoke serpentines changed. Chapter 292. Dang 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 dang. Her slender and powerful fingers plucked on the piano keys. The beautiful melody of To Alice slowly rose and the notes danced at her fingertips. Under the illumination of the stove, her voluptuous body wrapped in tulle seemed to be plated with a layer of golden brilliance. Dang dang dang. The last few notes fell. Dunico Hyacinth let go of her hands and let out an imperceptible sigh. Behind her, a maid holding an evening dress asked in a low voice, "Miss, don't you want to attend the banquet tonight? Sir Richard is waiting for you to dance the first dance." "I'm only 18 years old, Lua, do you understand? I'm only 18 years old and I don't want to get married so early. Why is this Richard like an old man who has been thirsty for 50 years, pestering me, pestering the Hyacinth family? Can't he wait 2 more years? Pestering me before the New Year's Day, and again after the New Year's Day. Miss, Sir Richard is deeply in love with you." Oh, what a joke. This is just a marriage between families, there is no emotional foundation. Hyacinth tore off the tulle covering her body, completely exposing her beautiful body, allowing the maid Lua to change her clothes. Moreover, he doesn't meet my aesthetic standards. The maid Lua inquired, "What kind of aristocrat do you like, miss? Elegant, indifferent, handsome, able to play beautiful piano melodies? Music can express the heart, and only those who are not so utilitarian can play a refreshing tune. Are you talking about Baron Liszt? Miss, you now play To Alice once a day. But Master doesn't seem happy. He is very angry about what happened in Tulip Castle. You should not make Master angry. He is trying to curry favor with the Pineapple family. Everyone thinks that the Taro family will fall into decline, so he can't wait to look for a new backer. But I don't want to let him get what he wants. Brother Meopel will get through this, and the Taro family will still be the rulers of Red Crab Island." Dunico Hyacinth changed into her underlined clothes and tied up her hair, restoring the grace of an aristocratic lady. Her face was full of nostalgia. "I just wanted to go to Long Taro Castle to relax, but I didn't expect to meet Liszt. His carelessness when playing the piano is something I have never seen before. Yes, Baron Liszt is a little more handsome than Sir Meopel. I spent the happiest night of my life in the Long Taro Castle, Lua. You have no idea how strong he is and how heartless. No wonder you can't forget him and play for Elise every day." "No, I will forget him. From the time he left the Long Taro Castle, I have forgotten about him. I just want to change a part of Die Elise. There are many flaws in this piano piece. It's like an improvisation. I guess it was improvised by Liszt. I can see that he was so careless at the ball. Then why don't you write to him and ask him?" Dunico suddenly froze for a moment. "I took the initiative once, but I don't want to take the initiative a second time. I am a thorny rose of Red Crab Island, not a dog's tail flower." She had already changed into her dress. Dunico looked at herself in the crystal mirror. She was still as beautiful as a blooming rose. She took a deep breath and put on the standard smile of an aristocratic lady. "Let's go. Rubber tree sprite worm triplets?" Seeing the reward of the smoke mission, Liszt felt that it was inconceivable. He had never heard of sprite worms having twins or triplets. As the essence of plants, sprite worms had always been alone. At least, according to the information he had, there had never been a sprite worm with twins or triplets. Even in those nonsensical night novels, there had never been an author who wrote about multiple sprite worms. The result of this mutation is really exciting. Regardless of whether there had been multiple sprite worms in the past or not, at least now the result was exciting. He originally thought that there was only one sprite worm, but in the end there were three. It was like a buy one get two free promotion. It just so happens that rubber is becoming more and more important. With 3 sprite worms, the planting of rubber trees can be greatly increased, and the rubber output will also increase. This was a very good mutation, and Liszt was very satisfied with this result. He restrained his thoughts and began to pay attention to the new mission. Mission: a song d'Elise will make the name of the Piano King Liszt spread throughout Red Crab Island, and also cause ripples in the heart of a certain girl. You think that a night of passion is the end, full stop, but there may be another chance. Please write a letter to Dunico Hyacinth. Reward: a melody from memory. Liszt clearly saw the contents of the smoke serpentines. Liszt's pleasant surprise was quickly replaced by absurd. What is this? Piano King Liszt? When Liszt touched the piano in Longtaro Castle, he indeed thought that his piano sound would shock the world, but he had never thought of becoming the Piano King. Moreover, after a night of spring breeze with Dunico, although he occasionally missed the moment of passion, he did not think of teasing her again. At the same time, what made him depressed was that the reward turned out to be just a melody from memory. What was the point of this? He really wanted to say that his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the smoke mission was clearly written in serpentines, engraved with content that he couldn't ignore. It was indeed to write a letter to Dunico and then get a melody, probably the melody of a pop song or maybe the melody of a piano song. In his previous life as an IT worker, he had a period of time when he typed code and liked to listen to the 70 world-famous piano songs, always playing the song list on loop. After a while, his mood relaxed. He accepted the content of the smoke mission's reward. If it was useless, then it was useless. He would think about it in the next mission. He also accepted the mission's content. If he could do it again with Dunico, why not? He just pondered. Why did the smoke mission issue such a strange content and boring reward? The smoke mission originated from the smoke dragon. It is the power of fate that drives all this. What does fate represent? The birth of the elves in the territory, the distress of the sirens, the invasion of the invisible dragon, and Paris's infiltration. These are all things that may or may not happen. But in the end, they happened and were grasped by Liszt in the form of missions. There were also some missions that affected the fate of the residents of the territory. For example, Costo wanted to sail, Rainier wanted to make bread, Carrasco wanted to be Luban, and even Dosen wanted to release magic. Then, there were the ultra-small saltpeter mines, fire dragon bone fragments, Thorns Ridge's World of Warcraft, and so on. Therefore, there are 3 ways to trigger the smoke mission, or rather, the trigger of fate. The first is what I already have around me and fate guides me to get it. The second is something that may or may not happen and fate guides me to get it or prompt it to happen. And the third is that people's thoughts and wishes can also affect fate? Thinking of this, you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.